Present, Your Honor.
Very good. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation led by Alder Randy Scannell. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America
and to the
republic
for which it
which
stands,
stands
One nation,
one nation
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
We live in troubled times. A worldwide pandemic, workers and businesses in dire straits. Too many of our streets are either riddled with potholes, or roiled with protests, or flooded with water. Social injustices lay all around us like leaves torn from the tree of life. We are in the middle of a storm. And in the midst of it all, many people are carrying on with a great deal of dedication and fortitude. And I want to give thanks to all the workers and businesses braving this storm. I want to give thanks to the protesters standing up for social justice and social change. And I want to thank city staff for the work you do navigating and managing our city through the many difficulties we are facing. Thank you. We elected officials are about to deliberate on policies and actions for the city. May this moment be one of our best. May our decisions sustain and enrich each and every member of our community. Thank you. Let's get to it.
Thank you, Alder. Wise words. On to approval of the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Dorf to approve the minutes of the May 19, 2020 meeting. Changes there? Seeing no requests, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
It's been approved. On to the approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Panel, seconded by Alder Stevens. Any changes there? All right, seeing no requests, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Agenda before you has been approved. On to the report by the mayor. So as was alluded to in the invocation offered by Alder Scannell, it's certainly a trying time here in the city of Green Bay and the state and across the country, especially with regard to some of the unrest that we've seen. I was out there with Commander Warwick on Saturday night and along with the chief on Sunday night to witness some of the activities. As I've said, the actions on Saturday night involved some tense moments, certainly, but was thankful that that there weren't any violent outbursts. Of course, that wasn't the case on Sunday, and witnessed things that I never anticipated seeing in the city of Green Bay. Some really dangerous and violent actions were taken, and I think it's important for all of us, you as alders, myself as mayor, all community leaders, to reject all violent and dangerous actions, to demonstrate unity, demonstrate a real willingness to listen and to learn, however, to the voices that have been raised, the voices that are asking us to be better, to do better, to strive for better things for this community and every single individual who lives here. So I'm incredibly grateful to our police chief, the entire command staff, and all of our officers, the men and women who are on our streets keeping us safe every day, the assistance offered by our fire department and EMS. Been impressed again and again by their dedication to the safety of this community, and just would ask us all to do whatever we can to keep Green Bay safe in the days ahead. Just also wanted to touch on a couple of other items before us on the agenda. There will be the informational item, the parks reopening plan. I know there was a lot of discussion and debate about that in committee, and just want to thank Director Ditchite, Assistant Director Anderson, and all the park staff for the work that was put into developing that plan. There are opinions and thoughts on all sides of these kinds of questions, but these are difficult decisions. And again, as I said, with regard to the protests and the response to them, on this question too, I think it's just really important that we take these steps with public safety in mind. And I know that that's what our park staff have done when putting this together, and would just ask that, that you all understand that, respect it, and hopefully support what's attempting to be accomplished there. Finally, we have a big budgetary item in front of us, 2020 bond. And so I want to thank and all members of the Finance Committee and all the alders who attended those discussions and who lent their thoughts to the debate there. Not a lot of frills in this bond request. 9.4.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just got a call from Alder Vanderleest. He can't hear anything. Sorry to interrupt. I don't know if
Thank you, Alder. I'll have Mike run.
Mike
on.
Hello, this is Mike Ronick. I will assist him.
okay. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. So as I was saying, $9.4 million, appreciate all the work that was done on that bond request. A lot of good discussion internal with members of the committee, whittling down the request from 12 plus million down to that 9.4. Much more reasonable number, I think, and something that we can, that I certainly support. I'm asking for council support on that tonight. That bond also includes an 8.7 increase in roadway length in terms of what we're going to be able to accomplish in 2020 compared to 2019. This is a significant increase, something that I think our citizens have been asking for some time. Council has been clamoring for, and again, I mean, this is really a no frills bond request. I wish it were lower in an ideal world. I think it certainly would be less, but I think it's very reflective of the needs that we have as a community. And again, asking for council support on that tonight. So with that, I will conclude my report and move on to announcements. And I'm pulling up our list of speakers here. Any announcements? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to appointments.
I have a correction.
Yes, Alderdorf, go ahead.
Thank you. For that new appointment, Erin Lawler, 409 North Maple Lane, 54303. She is replacing Mary Borowitz in the Housing Authority, and her term actually will expire on 8/1/2024, not 6/25. So I move to correct that appointment.
Okay.
Second.
Appreciate that. Motion's been made and seconded to amend or correct the appointment of Erin Lawler with the term to expire 8/1/2024. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 That amendment is adopted. That change has been made. So now we're on new appointments as amended.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf. Any discussion here on new appointments?
Alder Galvin.
Alder Galvin, go ahead.
Is
You're muted.
Sorry about that. Give me a couple years, I'll get used to it. I'd like to abstain. Obviously, I'm up for reappointment. I don't think it's right that I should be voting.
We're not.
What's that?
We're just on new appointment.
Oh, I thought we were doing them all together. I'm sorry. I'll go back to being muted.
So Alder's, because of Alder Vanderleest's technical difficulties, we're gonna recess here for a bit until Director Honick is able to assist him. So if you could just hold tight here, we'll recess for 5-10 minutes, and I'll let you know once that's been resolved.
That was Randy's favorite subject in school, right, Randy? Recess.
You betcha. But I never got it. They always kept me in.
Oh.
Well, because you were a naughty boy.
I liked cleaning.
Didn't work? Okay.
Alder Vanderleest, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry about the inconvenience.
No, no problem. Ready?
What number are we on?
So we held for you. We're just on reappointments. So I will
No problem.
call to order the meeting again, the meeting here. So we are on reappointments.
Move to approve.
Did we approve the appointments? I don't think we approved the appointments, did we?
No, I'm sorry, we are on new appointments. So I will entertain a motion on new appointments.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Nay. The ayes have it. The new appointments are approved. Under reappointments.
Second.
Who made the motion there?
I did.
Alder Scannell moved, seconded by Alder Stevens. Any discussion? Hearing none.
No, Alder Galvin.
Alder Galvin, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like to recuse myself from voting on my my reappointment.
Very good. That will be noted. Any other? Hearing none, all in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Those reappointments are approved. On to ordinances.
Motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
Motion made to suspend the rules by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf. Then the rules take up these items with one roll call vote. All in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended.
Motion to pass,
Second.
to adopt.
Motion made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Stoyer to adopt items J1 and J2. Please use the board. Those ordinances are adopted 12-0. On to the redevelopment authority.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf. Report K, which is the report of the redevelopment authority from the meeting on May 27, 2020. Any items here you wish to handle separately?
Number 2.
Number 2. Is that all? Item 2 will be handled separately. Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 2.
Move to approve item 2.
Second.
Second.
Motion to approve by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Galvin. That item was pulled by Alder Vanderleest, I believe. Alder, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I just would like to know the information on how the Northern Hotel, are they paying, what are they paying for taxes? And also, are they paying interest-only payments on their amount owed to the city? I just want a little update here. That was brought up, a while back. I've had some people ask. So I'd just like to hear from maybe Mr. Kevin Vonk, Dr. Vonk, if he handles
Director
that part of
Vonk.
it.
We will go to Director Vonk.
Sure, thank you. I may ask Director Ellenbecker in terms of the assessment piece. I know we're still finalizing our numbers. So the hotel wasn't fully operational until February of 2019, which means it was not fully assessed until 1/1 of this year. So those numbers, I think, are just being finalized right now. I believe board of review is Thursday, but if Director Ellenbecker has any preliminary information, I'll give her a minute and defer to her on that. As far as the payments go for the loan, we are billing them. We are basically a pass-through this HUD loan. They have a locked-in interest rate with the Bank of Mellon. So we send them a bill and they pay us both principal and interest on that. And they've been making those payments in full. There is an opportunity, HUD has offered an opportunity to perhaps defer some of the principal payments, just given the state of the pandemic. And they're doing that for all their Section 108 loans. They have not decided whether or not they are going to do that. This would not impact this piece of it in terms of job creation. What it would do is just simply move the principal back and spread it out among all of the other terms. But to date, they have been current on all of their payments. And what we're doing here is proposing just to push back the number and date for job creation completion.
Okay, that kind of gives me some information. And then are they currently, they are paying taxes in as of January 1 of 2020, then they're going to be assessed, then it's going to be assessed. Is that correct then?
Correct. They were partially assessed 1/1 of 19 because the restaurant was open and the building was partially finished. So they did get an assessment and were paying taxes in tax year 2019. But as far as 1/1 of 20, they got fully assessed. And I don't know if Director Ellenbecker has that number.
I don't have the 2020 number, but I can tell you the 2018 assessment, which would have been 1/1 of 18, the hotel before it was finalized, but it was at $3,079,000, and then 1/1 of 19, it was at $18,310,000. I do not have the 2020 number. That number does not get posted until after the board of review.
Okay, that kind of gives me the information that I was seeking there, and it sounds like things are going well. Then, as far I'm just hoping they can get back to business as usual and move forward and be a success. So, thank you very much for that information. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Alder. Any other further thoughts, questions on this item? Seeing no other requests to speak, all in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The item has been approved. On to improvement and services.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Johnson, was it?
Sure.
To approve report L, which is the report of the Improvement and Services Committee from the meeting on May 27, 2020. Any items under this report to be handled separately? Hearing none. All in favor of approving that report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved. On to protection and policy.
Motion to
Motion
approve.
to approve.
Motion made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Scannell to approve report M, which is the report of the Protection Policy Committee from the meeting on May 26, 2020. Any items here to be handled separately?
9.
Alder LaFave,
Which item, Alder LaFave?
number 7.
So we have 7 and 9. Any others? Items 7 and 9 will be handled separately. Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Nay, the ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of items 7 and 9. On item 7.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf to approve item 7. And that one was pulled by Alder LaFave.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I would like to include a sunset clause and make the motion in effect until Brown County Health Department deems the coronavirus pandemic has passed.
Hey, is that?
Because I feel that this is not a necessity. They said that some people don't want to go in right now because of the pandemic. Once it is cleared, then I think people should be able to go in and get their alcohol from the grocery stores or wherever they want to get it, walk in instead of ordering it online. I believe the groceries, that's proper to do it, but we had voted this down twice to allow them to order it online and go and pick it up. And so I believe that this should have a sunset clause. It's only because of the pandemic that people feel that they cannot go in and get their alcohol. Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, that's a motion made to amend item 7. That was seconded by Alder Weary, was it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
I'm just going to go to Attorney Chavez, maybe for some insight on how that might be worded. I'm not sure that public health necessarily deems that the coronavirus is not with us any longer. So just looking for some insight there from Attorney Chavez.
There are a couple of options. One would be to have it have a date certain. So, for instance, if we allowed it to, it would be adding language basically saying that this ordinance would be repealed as of December 31st, 2020, for example. Another alternative would be to tie it to the state of emergency, probably at the federal level. And so with that one, once that would expire, that is when that's when the ordinance will be repealed. The language for that one would probably be along that. So will automatically be repealed as of the date the federal emergency expires.
Thank you for that, Attorney Chavez. I'll go back to Alder Lefebvre for thoughts.
Yeah, either one, I guess, would be okay. However, the law department feels that this would be appropriate for this motion.
Our recommendation would be to have a date certain attached to it.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
The recommendation would be to have a date certain attached to it. So you just pick a date that it would automatically be repealed.
Okay, a date. Okay. Yeah, I suppose December 31st, 2020.
Okay, so that amendment is to amend item 7 to include a sunset date of December 31st, 2020. That motion was made and seconded by Alder Weary. Discussion on that amendment. Alder Dorf.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm definitely opposed to the amendment, and I'm in favor of the motion as originally stated. The argument that alcohol is not necessary and therefore people need to go into the store and get it themselves. Candy is not necessary. Potato chips aren't. Ice cream might not be. Chocolate definitely is necessary. But there are many things that aren't necessary to people. And that argument just fails with me. So I definitely am in favor of leaving it, and I will be voting against the amendment. Thank you.
Alder Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I too oppose the amendment. When I submitted the communication for us to discuss this particular ordinance change, it was with the intent to be something permanent. If what Alder Lefebvre is seeking is a temporary modification, I guess in light of the pandemic, we can certainly take that up. I think ordinance before us either pass or fail based on its own. And then if, additional conversation is required about it, for example, if it were to fail, an additional conversation were to be required about the merits of a temporary extension to align with the pandemic, I think we can have that at a later date. So I encourage council to reject the amendment.
Thank you, Alder Scannell.
Thank you, Your Honor. I believe there are some interested parties who'd like to speak on this. So I'd like to make the motion to open the floor.
Second.
Been made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf to open the floor. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 The ayes have it. The floor is open. Are there any residents who would like to speak?
So please, if you would like to speak,
Good evening. My name
please.
is Frank Abnett. I am the Vice President of Operations with Festival Foods.
Okay. And your address, sir?
It's 1634 Trinity Ridge Circle, De Pere, Wisconsin.
Very good. Go ahead.
Obviously, during these unprecedented times, we're seeing a lot of different shopping patterns and what have you, but I think it would be remiss to say that this is only affecting during this COVID time. There are many people that are handicapped that are unable to get into the stores to get what they want. Unfortunately, in some people's view, alcohol is not necessarily a must buy, but for those people that are handicapped that choose to partake in that, they don't have a method of purchasing it. So we do have 25 locations that currently offer sales in the parking lot with Click and Go. We've had 0 incidences. We take that responsibility very serious at Festival Foods. We make sure that all of our people that go out and deliver to the cars have a valid liquor license. So it's no different than a bartender or anybody that's in the store that's responsible for the sales of alcohol inside the store. And then we also have camera surveillance. These transactions are not completed until the customer does show their ID in these other locations. We would certainly make sure that that would continue in any ordinance that we have the opportunity to help support at this level. So we appreciate the consideration. Again, yes, it is part of COVID that shopping patterns have changed, but in the end, there's many people that can't get into the stores that we're trying to help with this, along with the convenience factor, but there's different sides of this to weigh. So thank you.
Thank
Question,
you, sir.
Your Honor?
Yes, Alder Scannell, go ahead.
What are the other locations and how long have they been operating like this?
I can list through them. Holman, Wisconsin, Mauston, Madison, Wisconsin. They're all Wisconsin, so I'll just list them off. Verona, Port Atkinson, Janesville, Kenosha, Hales Corners, Summers, Mount Pleasant, Marshfield, Bellevue, which is obviously adjacent to us here. And in some cases, that does give some stores a competitive advantage or a competitive disadvantage, depending on how you look at it. Quamico, same situation. De Pere, same situation. Kenosha, Eau Claire, there's 3 locations that we have there in different suburbs of Eau Claire. Fond du Lac, Oshkosh, Menasha, Darboy, Northland, which is Appleton, Sheboygan, and Manitowoc. And it varies on the dates. The longest standing would be Sheboygan, and that's been over 2 years.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, entertain a motion to close the floor.
Move to close the floor.
Second.
Motion by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Storier. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Ayes have it, the floor is closed.
Do I still have the floor, Your Honor?
You, Alder.
Thank you. Okay, I've been a proponent of this from the get-go, and I'm still a proponent of this. I think this is the wave of the future. I think it's just another way of doing business. I don't see it as anything that promotes alcohol or is a problem with distributing alcohol. So I think this is just a benefit to the stores and to customers, which I think is something we should, promote and support. So I fully support not having a sunset clause and just enacting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Galvin.
Your Honor, Alder LaFave said this is we've voted on and voted this down 2 times before. I'm opposed to this, but I'm also opposed to, if that's true, if this is the 3rd time we're doing this in a year. Again, I thought there were some regulations against us keep bringing the same thing back up, wishing for a different kind of result. And if Attorney Chavez or whoever could give her legal opinion on that, I would appreciate it.
Sure. I would just say, this item actually hasn't been before since I've been mayor, so it has been at least a bit more than a year. And we do have a new council. But with that, we'll go to Attorney Chavez for any further thoughts or comments.
Yes, sir. So what we discussed last time was whether or not it depends on how the council is just identifying its session. If we tie it to the calendar year, or if we not to the calendar year, if we tie it to the terms of the council, or if we tie it to each individual meeting, we are in a new council term, and it has not been brought up during this council term. So there would be nothing that would prevent it from being heard at this point. In addition, if there are changes that are made to the document, that is something that is able to revive it essentially, because then you're voting up. And my recollection is that it was only brought for adoption as ordinance once. It was sent back to staff a couple of times. And so I think it made its way through committee, but it never actually made it to an ordinance where it was actually, like, it kept getting sent back is my recollection.
All right, thank you very much. So I stand corrected. I'm still against this. I'm going into my third term. We discussed the effects of alcohol in our community, the scourge that it is. I'm not saying that Festival Food is an irresponsible operator, but everyone that we approve, we think, is going to be a responsible operator when it comes to the distribution of alcohol. And we've seen time and time again where once we open the Pandora's box, we can never close it. We've had trouble with gas stations and the convenience stores with alcohol related to that. We've seen the trouble with the taverns time and time again. And the comment has always been, and even from the people that are in support of this, is, yeah, if only we could do something, but once everyone's got it, then there's nothing we can do about it. And I think at some point as a community, we need to start drawing a line in the sand, and we have to start saying that we're going to start being more responsible about how this community views, looks at, and obtains alcohol. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Gerlach.
I withdrew my request because I don't know that I have anything particularly helpful to add. I would just say that the only thing I don't think we want to do is to tie this to the pandemic. I think it needs to stand on its merits. I think it's a well-written ordinance, but I listened to Alder Galvin, and I take what he has to say very seriously. I don't know the right answer, but I don't think we should tie it to the pandemic. I think that's just going to open a Pandora's box in the future.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Weary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would concur with Alder LaFave and Alder Galvin. I voted against this twice before, and this will be the third time. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Any further comments here? All right, hearing none, we had a motion to amend. It was seconded. So we have a sunset date of December 31st, 2020 proposed here. We're going to go to the board on this amendment. So that amendment fails 7-5. Your back self.
Move to approve.
Okay.
Motion made by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Stevens to approve. Comments? Hearing none, we'll use the board again on this. And the item passes 7-5. We're now on to item 9 that was pulled by Alder Dorf, I believe.
Thank you. I just want to make a clarification on item 9. The person that had brought this forward to Alder Burnett, if you watched the meeting, and I attended the meeting, had talked about Appleton having this kind of a policy, but then corrected himself and said it was only on agenda items that they can speak. We already allow the public to speak on any agenda item. So I'm going to vote against this. I'm not going to change the motion. I'm not going to do, anyone can look at it if they want, but to just have open season on non-agenda items, that is not what Appleton is doing. And I just want to make sure that that's clearly understood. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Alder. Any comments here?
I do, Mayor.
Alder Burnett, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm in favor of the refer to staff request. This passed the Protection and Policy Committee a few times. The gentleman who did speak at Protection and Policy, he clarified what he was referring to, but I believe, I don't want to speak for him here, but he's still in favor of the idea. I didn't get the indication that he was against the idea. Even if he were, I, as the member of the city council, still think it's a good idea. And for those of you who didn't watch the committee or didn't get an opportunity, I have a one-page policy ordinance that the city of Bloomington, Iowa, I believe, which is a similar population of Green Bay. I think they might have about 20,000 less people in Green Bay. But they have a very clear policy that's concise, to the point. And as far as I am concerned, there really are no holes in this. We can adopt it, change a few words here and there that is more relevant to Green Bay and actually improve it. So I'm in favor to staff. This won't be in my opinion, won't take much of their time. I will work with staff. I will share with them the information that I have. And in the end, I think it's a very good way for the public to address the city council on non-agenda items. And so we hear from the public who maybe do not understand or maybe, as informed of their city government. It's just another tool for people to access their elected representatives. So I'm in favor of still referring to staff. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Alder Johnson.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make it clear that we're not actually voting to adopt a policy tonight. What the motion is to refer to staff and whether or not we want to allow staff 30 to 60 minutes to draft a policy for us to debate. So I've never, in my short tenure on council, I've never seen us spend so much time debating whether or not we should refer something. And so I just find it a little bit discouraging that we're not at least willing to take the time to review something that is so simple as drafting a very basic policy. And even though applicant may not allow this, I know that there are other communities that do. In fact, I spoke with the mayor of Manitowoc, and this is still an active policy that they use. He told me that it works very well and that they like it. So there are communities that do use it, and they use it effectively. I'm not afraid to hear what the public has to say, so I'm certainly not afraid to allow staff 60 minutes to draft a policy to bring it back to council for debate. So I encourage referral. Let's actually see a policy before we vote the idea down. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Alder. Any further comments? Seeing none, entertain a motion to refer.
Motion to refer.
Motion made by Alder Steuer, seconded by
Burnett.
Second.
Alder Brunette. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
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 No.
Use the board, please.
Yes, we can move forward.
Oh my gosh.
All right, has been referred on an 8-4 vote. We are on to report of the Protection and Policy Committee granting operator license.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Weary, seconded by Alder Vanderleest to approve Report N, which is the report of the Protection and Policy Committee granting operator licenses. Any names for which you'd like to be recorded as abstaining? Any names under this report you wish to handle separately? Hearing none, all in favor of the report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved. On to the Plan Commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Made by Alder Corpus Dax, seconded by Alder Dorf to approve Report O, which is the report of the Plan Commission from the meeting on May 26, 2020. Any items under this report to handle separately?
Number 3.
Number 6.
Was that 2, 3, and 6?
And no.
Right, items 2, 3, and 6 will be handled separately. Hearing none others, all in favor of approving that report? The remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Report has been approved with the exception of items 2, 3, and 6. Wishes regarding item 2?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Corpus Dax, seconded by Alder Stevens. This was pulled by Alder Johnson, was it?
Yes.
Alder Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess, we talked about this a little bit at Parks Committee, and I'm trying to fully process what it is that we're trying to achieve here. So I don't know if it would be appropriate for Alder Steuer perhaps to, Mayor, if he would be allowed to maybe provide a little bit more clarification about what it is he's looking to achieve here, just because the Plan Commission didn't have a whole lot of discussion around this particular item.
Very good. Alder Steuer.
You're looking at number 2, Alder?
Correct, the drive-in theater.
All right, well, I brought this forward. Actually, I had a citizen bring it forward and just talked about possibilities of putting together some sort of entertainment venue, a drive-in theater along the side of a building. It could be any number of spaces that the city could say, yes, we could do this safely, where you could have cars pull up and you could tune into a radio station and watch a film. So it'd be like a drive-in. We don't have any drive-ins per se in this community, but there's about 6 or 7 around the northeast part of the state that have used them. Granted, drive-ins were a big part of the fabric years ago and they kind of went away, but during this time, it seems like people are looking for entertainment sources. So I know that I brought this forward at planning and also at Parks, and it sounded like Parks received and placed it on file, but planning and possibly Parks was going to look into this. So I know that on Broadway, I think you had some areas where there might have been some films, there might have been some things done already, but I'm just looking at a citywide setup where we could either use our parks or we could use building spaces or construct, just have a large LED television of some sort set up, a large screen. All you need is Bluetooth and you need an FM radio station to guide into. So I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, I do appreciate that. I would have a question then maybe for Director Vonk. Director Vonk, I mean, what Alder Steuer described, it sounds to me like a request for the city perhaps to create and manage a facility. From a Plan Commission perspective, it would seem to me that this isn't something that the Plan Commission itself would do. From your perspective, particular item, what would be Plan Commission's responsibility on this?
Sure. The way I looked at it and interpreted it, twofold. One was perhaps, given the state of affairs right now, something that will be discussed later under the Committee of the Whole is the ability for the city to issue permits for temporary uses. Whereas Public Works would be able to issue temporary permits for uses on public right-of-way, streets, sidewalks. Parks Department would be able to do so for city parks. And the same way our department, Community and Economic Development, could provide them on private property. And so what I would see this as, fitting into that issue of temporary uses, if somebody proposed to do this entirely on their own property, could we look at it and say, yep, it meets, basic principles of health, safety, welfare. We'd look at things like the site arrangement, ingress, egress, facilities that were provided. And could we say, yep, you could do a virtual or a temporary drive-in theater. I think as we will talk later on some of these temporary uses, I think it provides a good opportunity for us to do some small calculated experiments on whether things work or don't work. And maybe we'll go back around and make some permanent changes to our ordinance to maybe allow for different uses in different types of zoning districts. But the way I saw this is feeding into a larger picture of, all right, how are we going to look at temporary uses up front, but then the longer term of, okay, could some of these be perhaps more permanent. And so that was the reason to go to staff and then come back in June, is that we would regulate things if somebody wanted to do this totally on the private side.
Okay, and I just want to be clear, I'm not opposed to the idea of it. I just want to make sure that we're not sending staff on a wild goose chase, you know, where it's like identify every site, every setup that could possibly occur within the city of Green Bay, when we don't actually have somebody requesting to do this, or we don't have a user for this particular service right now, which is why I suggested that it almost makes more sense for the Parks Department if the Parks Department were to explore actually executing it versus just determining from a planning perspective what could or could not happen. So that's why I'm just trying to maybe, again, do you feel comfortable, Director Vonk, that Plan Commission is an appropriate place for this particular item, given its current status?
I'm going to say yes, though the report that comes back is going to look probably beyond the scope of drive-in theaters and probably look at a lot of other temporary uses, because I think if the ordinance for temporary uses passes tonight, that'll give our staff some time. I'm guessing we'll probably start getting applications in. And again, I don't know if somebody's going to initially propose this, but I think it will enable us to at least have a conversation at Plan Commission about, are there some types of uses that are appropriate in certain districts and not in others. So I will say we're not going to focus specifically on this, but it's going to be weaved into a larger conversation.
In light of that, would it be useful or helpful for us to modify this particular item to eliminate the specificity, that's a tough word to say.
Specificity, right, yeah, no.
of the virtual drive-in theater performing arts venue, and would you prefer to see that be more broad? Would that be useful, or do you intend to do that anyway?
I mean, if it's acceptable for Alder Steuer, I mean, just, arts, entertainment, and culture, I think and performance, you could look at a large thing, in terms of, I think there's certain things, for eating and drinking establishments, but it becomes a little bit different, right? When you're doing performance and arts and culture, and you're going to have, loudspeakers and lights and things like that. So maybe there's some areas that you do want to do it and do not want to do it. If Alder Steuer is amenable, I think that would provide us some coverage and fitting in with what we were intending on doing with this.
I'm very much open to all of this. I'm glad that Director Vonk, that you brought up the fact that Public Works deals with roads, Parks deals with parks, planning, and other areas. So there's three or four different areas that these type of entertainment facilities could come forward. So I know that some of the neighborhood associations have used films in the park where they set up a temporary screen and they had movies in the park for their neighborhood association. I mean, it could be something on that order. It could be even a little bit larger. Maybe there's somebody in the private sector that'll step up and say, hey, I'd really like to do this. I think the concept of, when I said a drive-in theater, that conjures up things from years past, but it doesn't have to necessarily be just a drive-in theater. It just has to be a space that will allow you to view or listen to music or, culture. I'm all about all of that. So I'm amenable to that. Yes.
Johnson, you still full?
Yep. So quite frankly, I guess given what Director Vonk said, I feel no inclination, I guess, to have to propose amendment and go through that effort. If anyone in council wants to halt Director Vonk's intention of maybe bringing back a little bit broader scope on that, they can propose that amendment. But otherwise, I'm comfortable with it as is. So thank you for those answers.
Okay.
Thanks, Alder. Any other comments? All right. We did have a motion and a second. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The item has been referred. On to item 3, wishes.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion made by Alder Corpus Stack, seconded by Alder Dorf. And this item was pulled by whom?
Alder Vanderleest.
Alder Vanderleest, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. At 2475 Shady, we've done a lot of neighborhood. I had about 2 people in the neighborhood that were in favor of the conditional use permit. And I had over 20 people that were not in favor of the conditional use permit. And, the neighborhood is, starkly against it as far as, they don't want this particular permit to be granted. And I'm representing the people that are in my district that are, pardon? people in my district that they don't want it. And basically, we went through the planning commission approved it. And, you know, they heard all the arguments of different people that called in. I'd like to open the floor. There may be some people here that would like to, you know, address the council on it as well. And, you know, I got a list of about over 20 names that people did not want it. And I don't feel that people that are in our district that are opposing it, I feel that, you know, their message should be heard loud and clear. And those are the people that I'm representing, and I'm representing the people that do not want the conditional use permit in this particular neighborhood. So that's why I'm opposing it. And if we could open the floor in case anybody would like to speak. I'd make a motion to open.
Go to open the
I'm
floor.
sorry.
I was just wondering if Director Vonk and if necessary, Attorney Chavez could just sort of give us the lay of the land in terms of what our legal abilities are. We have some real constraints on our authority based on what state law is in this area. Director Vonk?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. We talked a little bit about this at Plan Commission, and when it comes to conditional use permits, the state has preempted us in terms of our ability to really deny CUPs. In 2017, Wisconsin Act 67 passed. It's in the statutes under section 59.69. And really what it did is for local governments said, you can have, you know, conditional uses. It doesn't change the zoning, but in certain zoning districts, you know, you need to go before and get a conditional use permit to do something. It's not outright expressly permitted. You need a conditional use permit. Now, if that applicant goes through and agrees to meet all of the requirements or conditions that a community has put in place that are imposed, then the entity, the municipality, has to grant the CUP. It is allowed to place additional conditions on the applicant or on the property owner, but they have to be reasonable. And they have to fit within, again, you know, the realm of the zoning ordinance, and in terms of they would be uniformly applied to other properties in that zoning district. And the only reason that a community could deny a CUP, if there's substantial evidence brought forth that says, look, this is going to impact health, safety of the community, of the neighborhood, of the property. Documented substantial evidence, that is the only reason that a community can deny the CUP. But if the applicant checks all the boxes, meets all the conditions, and those conditions are deemed appropriate, the city has to issue the CUP. We as staff felt there's already in our ordinance a list of certain things, home businesses, which this is for, can and cannot do. So there's already kind of, I think, 7 conditions pre-built in. We recommended another. I think Plan Commission added another. If there's still further concerns, this council could add another. But with that, we believe that it is appropriate to recommend approval of that because they are willing to meet those conditions. So that's just kind of an overview of the scope. I don't know if Attorney Chavez has anything else to add in terms of our ability to deal with these CUPs.
Nope, that pretty much covers it. Away the discretion from the council and made it, they used the word shall, meaning that we don't have an option. If the conditions are met, the council is obligated to grant it, or else we are open to liability.
I think those laws should be challenged personally. I think the neighborhoods have the ability to say they don't want it, and I think they should be heard loud and clear. I know Alter Galvin had issues in his district as well. And as far as granting, you know, in other words, it was the same kind of conclusion. You know, in other words, what's the sense of going before the planning commission and spending all the time before the planning commission when they're going to grant it anyway? You know, I don't feel that that's right. I think that, you know, the citizens should be heard, and I think they should have the authority to say no. In other words, if over 20 some people in the neighborhood don't want, and we're going to say, yeah, you got to have it. And the state's out of line. I feel they're out of line.
Yep. Appreciate that, Alder. And, you know, when I served in the legislature, I opposed the legislation, but the law is the law, and it's just important for us all to understand what the laws of the state of Wisconsin are. So I just wanted to have that established before we got further input from the community. But with that, entertain a motion to open the floor if there are residents here.
So moved.
Motion made by Alder Story, seconded by Alder Weary. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Nay. The ayes have it. The floor is open for residents. Do we have any attendants here?
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. Just state your name and your address, please.
My name is Paul Lee Joyce at 2445 Shady Oak Drive. I am 3 houses down from the proposed conditional use permit building. I was not one of the fortunate ones to be within the yellow marked line, which is only 200 feet, as if they're the only interested people. I am opposed, and I beg to differ with you, Mr. Bonk, on the state law. The state law requires that the applicant, not only the opposition, provide evidence that they can substantially meet the criteria, but the applicant must do as well. And with what I see, the council is being asked tonight to approve one lousy condition, and that's parking of 3 cars at the residence. What does "at" mean? To any of you, what does "at the residence" mean? On the street? In other words, if they are not by his house, can they be by my house? And where are these 3 cars? I assume the residents will have 2 cars of their own. Plus, they said they have 2 employees. If they bring cars, that's 4. Where's this 3 come from? Anyway, I can go on, and I would get very wordy, but I do think, Mr. Vonk, you have to take a look at the law from both sides. Not that your hands are tied because you can, the person applying for the applicant, CUP, says they can meet everything. You have to provide substantial evidence that they can meet everything. And I want to make the committee aware that there was a child killed on the street last year. I'm sure you're all aware of that. 1 extra car to me is extra traffic. We don't need it. Nobody wants it. And I'm sorry, I'm not a friend of the neighbors, and I won't be. And that's my input. If you want to hear more of the things that I think, Mr. Vonk, I think they have to address, I will be glad to talk to you about that.
All right, thank you, sir. You have another resident attending?
Okay, my name is Ann Schmidt. I live at 2466 Shady Oak Drive. I also oppose the granting of the permit. My concern also is the increased traffic. And I agree with Alderman Vanderleest. Maybe it's time that you challenge that state law. I've been a taxpayer for 28 years with the city. One thing that I'm going to ask you for, I've never asked for anything from you before. And I think that you need to take the 20 taxpayers that you have and listen to them. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Other residents? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the floor.
So moved.
Motion made by Gerlach, seconded by Alder Scannell. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is closed. Alder Dorf.
Thank you, Mayor. I understand where Alder Vanderleest, I understand his concerns. I've certainly heard from some of the neighbors who have called and who have emailed me, and yet my concern is about the city and the potential liability that we would be open to. If we deny this, we're open to being sued because we would not be following the state law as I understand it and as it has been explained to me. So I'm going to have to vote to support what Plan Commission did. Well, at the same time, I'm sorry that the neighbors feel so badly about this. Thank you.
Alder Galvin.
Thank you, Your Honor. First off, I understand where Alder Vanderleest is coming from. He's got 20 constituents, and he certainly has to support their viewpoint, and I agree with that. But when this same item came up in my district, there was a lot of concern from neighbors. And I don't know if maybe things weren't explained the same way at the meeting for Shady Oak as it was for in my district. But at the end of the meeting, anyone that was in opposition changed their minds and they supported it. The reason being that they felt this was going to be extra traffic. They felt it was going to have people all over the place, cars, large signs, and they were reassured when they found out that the signs could be no bigger than the sign that any resident could use to display their address numbers, for example. That the owner wouldn't be allowed to pave over part of the yard to make a bigger parking lot, and that it could only be operated during certain hours, and that they couldn't have large groupings of people there, that it had to be kept small, and so it wouldn't disturb the neighborhood. So I would have to say that, when everything was done, my concerns were satisfied. And like I said, my neighbors' concerns were also satisfied. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Gerlach.
I do also feel for Alder Vanderleest. It's a difficult position to be in. On the other hand, I sat through the entire commission meeting and listened to all the testimony. I've read all of the letters. There was a letter by someone named Bonnie Van Egren that was not ever read. I hope the rest of the alders have read it. She lives next door to this property and she is fully in favor of it and supports having the Schraders move in and do their photography business. I've had phone calls. I've had email, and I have gone out looking for evidence statute, and it says that we can deny a conditional use permit only on the basis of evidence, not on the basis of opinions and speculation. And I couldn't believe the speculation that I was hearing at that meeting, the wild speculation being mown down in the streets by traffic. There's even a letter from people who live on a different street saying the traffic's going to come and turn around in our street. And I want to remind people that in the letter of application that Ms. Schrader had with everyone, she stipulated that no more than 50% of the business would be handled in her home. And she said that it would all be done by appointment. And she said all the appointments would be between 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then someone took that to mean and stated she's going to run this business from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. every weekday. It's just simply a misperception, and it's based on fear, and it's gotten out of hand. To think that one photographer can possibly create that much traffic. And I don't know, and this letter from Ms. Van Egren was not read at the Plan Commission. And also there's a letter by the trust that owns the home. And I thought it was interesting that this gentleman pointed out that his father, who lived there until he died earlier this year, ran a business from his home the whole time. He was a financial advisor and an insurance agent. So I feel for people, but I also feel that someone has put some fear into them, and they're not really thinking logically here. We have to have evidence. I look that having a home-based business in your neighborhood lowers the value of your property. I went looking for the evidence. I couldn't find the evidence. So we have to support this, and I don't feel bad about supporting it. If these folks bought the house next door and started their business, I think they would be fine. If they took pictures in their backyard, I'd take a cup of coffee out on my deck and watch. I really think fear has taken over, and people have lost a sense of the reality of this. I hope that the citizens... Who is she? Who is she?
No, Alder, just continue on.
Okay. I hope that the citizens will take a deep breath and take a step back and say, you know what? This could probably be a source of real pride for our neighborhood. And these could be some really good neighbors. So I will absolutely support this. I feel I have to, but I do it very willingly.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Corpus Dax.
Thank you, Mayor. When this came through the first time in Alder Galvin's district, I supported this. And as far as I'm aware, Director Vonk, correct me if I'm wrong, but nothing's changed. There's no change aside from the address. And when we approved this the first time, I believe it was approved unanimously. Again, nothing's changed aside from the address. It's a photography business. It's by appointment only. She said that a lot of her work, it's not just taking the photograph. It's a lot of the work goes into the execution. I know someone had raised concerns about potentially hazardous materials being on site. She doesn't do any lab work. She sends that out. So that's not an issue either. Again, Wisconsin Act 67 does limit us, tells us that as long as that applicant is checking all the boxes and, meeting all those conditions that we as a council need to allow it. But along with what Alder Gerlach was saying, I support this, not because I have to, but because I support this. I mean, it's a photography business. There's only so much business that she can generate.
Thanks, Alder.
Thank you, Your Honor. I too sat in that meeting. It was a very lengthy meeting, and as far as Alder Vanderleest goes, I understand totally where you're coming from. In my 8 years plus years on council, I've dealt with numerous CUPs that have come forward. Sadly, we had one that went against us, and it would cause multi-million-dollar lawsuit against us. I'm not going to go into full detail. If you want to know, I can go into detail, but I do worry about the liability factor here. I think, talking about property values, I know the neighbors are all concerned about that. And again, it was brought up at Plan Commission, but also by our attorney, that you need to have proof that your property values would decrease. And I didn't hear anything. There was a lot of speculation by the neighbors talking about that, and it was kind of a fear thing. I have seen many CUPs come through this council, and this is one of the least difficult ones that I've seen. I mean, I can think of other ones that were a lot more egregious than this one. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but there was a standard list of 7 different checklists, so to speak, and I called planning. David Buck answered all of these questions for me. I don't have to go and read them, but basically each one of those was brought forward and said it's okay, it's good, that it will work. So I will be in favor of this as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Weary. I think you're muted.
Yeah, that would help. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for voting against those changes at the state level. I think they really did an injustice to the cities, taking away our ability to guide some of these developments. We saw that with cell towers over and over and other type of conditional use permits. In reading things about it, we have to base our decision on facts. And so I'm going to use the fact that sounds like they are going to have 1 to 2 employees. They'd be coming and going. Clients would be coming and going 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Both of those would mean increased traffic. And for a residential area like that, they didn't ask to have that increased traffic. So I'm going to vote no based on the fact that they will have more increased traffic. Thank you.
Alder. Any further comments?
I'd just like to make one, Mayor.
Just one.
Alder
Lefebvre. Alder Lefebvre, go ahead.
Yes, I did attend that meeting also, and my understanding is that everyone has said this is what the state did to the cities, all the municipalities in the state of Wisconsin, and I understand Alder Vanderleest, he has to stand up for his residents, and he feels passionately about this issue, and I believe he's in a different district than I am. He should be contacting his state representatives, and he should be voicing this. Maybe the residents too. Contact your representatives and tell them that this is not right, that the cities should be able to control certain things. But I do feel that this business is very benign. If some businesses, yes, I would definitely vote against it, even if the state said, you know, we're supposed to do it. But this one, I think, is very benign. It's not something that, and also if they sell, move, this does not stay at the residence. This stays with the owners, the people who are going to be running this business only. So I don't see anything, so I will vote for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Vanderleest.
Yes.
Mayor, if I may, just before Alder Vanderleest, just one quick clarification. Alder Lefebvre mentioned that the CUP goes with the owners. The CUP is specific just for that property and the owners. So if the owners move, the CUP does not stay with the house. It does not go with them. It is one and the same. So it's only for these individuals at this address. So they sell the house or they move, the CUP is done.
Thank you, Dr. Vonk. Yes, that's what I meant. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I just want to make that clear for your colleagues.
Sure.
Appreciate the clarification. Alder Vanderleest.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel that we should challenge this. We have an attorney on staff. The thing is, if you approve it right now, it's in. And as far as, contacting your legislator, we're dealing with something right now. In other words, the people in this district, they don't want it. I can't support it. And I feel that they're just as important as the person that says they want it. And when you got 20 people telling you they don't want it, I feel that I'm standing with the 20 people that don't want it. And, all the things that they mentioned, Mr. Lee Joyce mentioned that there was a child killed on their street. These are facts. So I feel that we should challenge it and not approve it. I'm not supporting it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alder. Any additional thoughts? Seeing none?
I did not get in to speak. Can I speak?
I'll entertain a motion to open the floor.
Motion to open the floor.
Open the floor.
Motion made by Alder Story, seconded by Alder Vanderleest. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is open. Ma'am, just state your name and address, please.
Hello, this is Diane Anderson. I live at 2454 Shady Oak Drive. The concern is too with the traffic on the street here. I really wish, I've been listening in, and I really wish that we had more time to contact our legislatures, because this is kind of just like throwing in our laps a few weeks back. And we received letters actually put in our mailbox from these people who were attempting to put this into the home. And it didn't give us enough time to get together as neighbors and really discuss it and, put it forth to the legislature. I believe that Alderman Vanderleest that's what he's trying to say. I mean, this was just a few weeks ago. This is a very upgraded neighborhood. I don't know how many of you have ever driven up this street. It is just one street. We have lived here for 26 years, and our taxes are astronomical here and for the city. And I just feel that if we had more time, that people could contact maybe the legislatures and bring forth to put into maybe a different direction for having these kind of permits just dropped in our lap in the neighborhood. It would be very substantial and accordingly right for the citizens, just not in our neighborhood, but the entire city of Green Bay. And I will say one thing. I am not against these people that want to buy the house for themselves. What we are saying, the people that are did not want a business in running out of a house in this neighborhood because of the increased traffic, what has happened last year. Like I said, I don't know if anyone's ever driven up the street, but it has been very upsetting, and we have not had enough time to put into action anything to relate. And when I have to listen to an older person say, I would more than likely like to sit in my backyard and watch them take pictures. Well, you are not sitting in the backyard of that person. You are not that person that has the house behind these people who are actually going to be putting this in. There is nothing against the people. I want to make that very clear. It is all about the business aspect, the traffic aspect. And when somebody comments about the legislature and the law, this was kind of dropped in our laps. And I will just suffice with that comment, and I would thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Close the floor.
Motion to close the floor.
Motion made by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Corpus Dax. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is closed. We do have a motion before us.
Use the board, please.
All right, we'll go to the vote and use the board. Item passes 9-3. On to item 6. What are your wishes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Made by Alder Dorf, Alder Scannell to approve. The item here was pulled by whom?
Alder Steuer.
Alder Steuer, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to commend Director Vonk and his staff for putting this together. All the years that I've worked for the city and that, I never really saw much like this. And I think the fact that, I've seen too many projects come and go where there wasn't enough notice for the people in the area. And I think having this sign policy is a very good thing, that they're going further out and trying to be inclusive, and also having signage that people can look at and read very well. So I just wanted to commend Director Vonk, David Buck as well, and on the staff for a fine job on this. Thank you.
Very good, thanks. Are there any further comments on this item? Hearing none, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The item has been adopted. On to the report of the Finance Committee.
Move to approve.
Second.
Made by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Scannell, to approve Report P, which is the report of the Finance Committee from the meeting on May 26, 2020. Any items here to be handled separately? Hearing none. All in favor of approving that report, please.
Number 4.
Item 4?
Yes, please.
The other items? Okay. Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved with the exception of item 4. Item was pulled by Alder Scannell. What are your wishes here?
Motion to approve.
Second.
To approve made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf. Alder Scannell.
Yes, I would just like some clarification. I find this item a little confusing. are we charging nominal fees? Are we for pickup? It seems like we got a lot of conflicting information here. I don't believe we did that before with the same guidelines used during the emergency. So I'm not exactly sure what we're approving. If I could get some clarification, please.
Very well. We will go to Director Grenier. Clarifying comments or Director Ellenbecker?
Go ahead, Director Ellenbecker. I could just give you a recap after. There was quite a long discussion on this item, and because of the administrative work of maybe charging the residents and the DPW was really not going to be able to deliver them, there was a decision just to really have the city buy 500 more bags of sand, the sand bags, have them come to a city location and really handle it the same way as in the past, where they could just come pick up the bags, no fee. The city would pay for them out of the contingency because it is a relatively small dollar amount, and that would reduce a large amount of administrative work for 200 to 500 bags of sand.
Would that be by appointment that they pick those up?
I believe they were going to work through the neighborhood association to really have them work through and pick them up. But I want somebody else to answer that if they have more specifics on it.
Well, Mayor, if I could.
Just one second, Alder. Director Grenier, do you just want to explain the process that was used for the original round of bag?
Well, the process that was used on the previous 10,000, the bags were stored at a storage location down at the former Badger Sheet Metal location off Broadway. And for the first 2 weeks, we had the facility open during regular hours. Then we went down to some limited hours and eventually ended with by appointment. So the way I would envision this moving forward, that 500 sandbags are going to be acquired and stored down at that same location that they were previously. And then we were anticipating working through the neighborhood association for appointment, and then anyone else, if there were bags left over, they would be made available by appointment for residents throughout the city.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director. Alder Scannell, you still have the floor.
That explains it. I'm good.
Very good. Alder Johnson?
Thank you, Mayor. Because I made the motion at the committee level, I just thought I'd offer a little bit additional clarification. The expectation was that that we would distribute these the same way that we did the initial batch. Additionally, I had made a request of Alder Lefebvre to simply talk to the mayor to see if he would be willing to authorize the purchase of these using his authority under the declaration of emergency, because really at the end of the day, we're talking about a couple $100 here. So it's not like a significant investment. This request is only being brought forward simply because we ran out of sandbags before the individuals who live in that area were able to take advantage of this. And obviously they are facing an imminent need. And so that was kind of the request. If the mayor could just do that, we could do it. But of course, it's before us right now anyway. So if council wants to take action on it, we can do that and put it to bed. And if it fails for any reason, I just wanted to point out that the mayor, unless council reverses the decision later on in the agenda, the mayor would still have the authority to make this happen.
Just to clarify a little bit, that was contemplated, but we would have had to declare an additional emergency. We've got a few going on right now, so the decision was made not to declare the emergency, given the fact that we have this council meeting in front of us here. Attorney Chavez, did you have additional comments?
Yeah, I was just going to weigh in and basically say two things. One, that it would have required an emergency declaration for the flooding, and that second, the mayor's powers are in between council meetings, and so when the council is able to act, the council actually has the power to act under the emergency as well.
Very good. Thanks, Attorney.
Okay. Mayor speak?
Yes, go ahead, Alder LaFave.
Yes, I brought this forward because what happened before is that most people out here got such a short notice, and so it was all the hours were during working time. Many people could not go then, and also people did not have vehicles to pick up. So I had, I know one resident down on Lakeside with the April flood, it went completely through his house, completely destroyed his house. Not completely destroyed it, but a good share of it. And so he definitely needs them. So, and I know some other people then said too, yes, we would like some, but we could not pick them up. So I made the request, and I thought, well, they were willing to pay for them, but because of all the logistics, it was kind of a nightmare for the city to try to do something with people paying and delivery. So I said, well, then we would, as an association, it probably will be me. I will make arrangements, and I will ask my son-in-law to help. I know he has a trailer, and my neighbor has a trailer, and we will do the pickups and delivery. 500 is not that many, but I do have a list of people who did make requests for these sandbags, and they're very appreciative to get them. And so I hope everybody here will agree to this item. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Do you have a motion and a second?
Your Honor, just one more thing.
Alder Scannell, go ahead.
Yes. I also got some flooding on the northwest side here, the far northwest side, and I do have some constituents who are also interested in getting some sandbags. Do we have enough? We're ordering 500. I believe the original request was 250, and I believe Alder Johnson asked to bump that to 500. I'm wondering if we should maybe even go a little higher. I'm not sure if, Mr. Mayor, if you know why the Alder Johnson asked to go to 500, or could check that with him.
Could go to Alder Johnson if he is interested in answering.
Yeah, the intent was Alder LaFave was going to talk to the residents in her area there and actually get a firm count in terms of what she would need it. So I just arbitrarily picked 500 so that we had a ceiling. So the motion was to say that we would authorize up to 500 sandbags. I mean, that's the logic behind it. 500 seemed to be a comfortable number.
Thanks, Alder.
Mayor, may I speak?
Alder Scannell has the floor.
Well, if Alder LaFave thinks she's going to use all 500, I would like to actually up that number a little bit to maybe 600. But if she thinks that there'll be some left over, then perhaps 500 is enough. I mean, we're not talking much money. Maybe, well, I'll wait and see what you know, Mr. Chair, about the number 500.
Alder LaFave?
Yes. Can I ask Alder Scandal how many he thinks his residents would need? Because we're not going to use 500, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Alder Scannell?
Actually, I really don't know. I'm not sure. So if you don't think you're going to use 500, how about we just go to 600?
Second.
A motion to 600. I'll make a motion to 600. We should have plenty. And we're not talking much money.
Number of sandbags from 500 to 600. It's been seconded by Alder Johnson. All in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The amendment is successful. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve as amended.
Second.
Motion to approve as amended, offered by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. The ayes have it. The item has been approved as amended. On to the Parks Committee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Corpus Dax, seconded by Alder Stevens to approve report 2, which is the report of the Park Committee from the meeting on May 27, 2020. Any items to be handled separately? Hearing none, all in favor of approving that report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved. Under Personnel Committee.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Been made by Alder Dorf, by Alder Corpus Dax to approve report R, which is the report of the Personnel Committee from the meeting on May 26, 2020. Any items here to be handled separately? Hearing none, all in favor of approving that report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Nay. The ayes have it. The report has been approved. Report of the Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission.
Move to
Motion to
approve.
approve.
Motion made by Alder Stevens, seconded by Alder Dorf to approve report S, which is the report of the Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission from the meeting on May 18th, 2020. Any items here to be handled separately?
16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21.
16 through 21.
Correct.
Any others? Items 16 through 21 will be handled separately. Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Nay, the ayes have it. The report has been approved, with the exception of items 16 through 21. Wishes?
Motion to approve. Take them together.
Motion has been made to suspend the rules and take them with one roll call vote. That's made by Johnson, seconded by
Second.
Alder Dorf. Items were pulled by Alder Johnson. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend this particular Traffic Commission meeting, and when I watched the video, there really wasn't any discussion around these particular items. I do have some concerns about the excessive setback for some of these particular stalls, and so I would make a motion that we actually refer these back to staff just for some additional discussion.
Second.
Second.
Motion has been made to send items 16 through 21 back to, or refer to staff for additional work. Motion has been made by Alder Johnson and was seconded by Alder Dorf. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and those items have been referred to staff. On to the Ad hoc Committee on Elections.
Move to approve.
Second.
Made by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Corpus Dax to approve report T, which is the report of the Ad hoc Committee on Elections from the meetings on May 14th and May 21st, 2020. Any items to be handled separately?
Talk about number 2.
2.
There's one here, Your Honor. I'm sorry, I can't. My touch screen is very touchy.
Did you have an item there, Alder Scannell?
Yes, it's my item for about referring to the state. Where are you?
Number 2.
Number 2.
Or 3?
2 or 3.
2, probably 2.
2 is regarding the election date, or day rather, and 3 is mail-in voting.
3 mail-in voting, thank you.
Okay, 2 and 3 will be handled separately. Any others? Hearing none others, all in favor of approving the remainder of that report, please signify by saying aye.
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 Nay. You guys have it. The report has been approved with the exception of items 2 and 3. Your wishes regarding item 2?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Made to approve by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf. Item was pulled by Alder Vanderleest.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wonder why a Saturday? Why would we want to move it to a Saturday?
Is that a question for Alder Scannell?
That would be a question for anybody that's proposing it.
Alder Scannell?
A Saturday is not a school day. I see a problem with polling places, especially with trying to get enough space to exercise social distancing. Getting polling places has been a problem for years, and it would be good if we could use the schools. So we need a day where school's not in session, which is Saturday. So that's why the weekend bowl, so that hopefully I think we could work out something with the schools, if we can work out with the state to change the date, where we would then be able to use the schools for polling places, and I think that would help facilitate a lot of our problems.
My question is this, that, my question is this, that.
Alder Vanderleest, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, the schools were they weren't really receptive to having the elections at this away from the schools. A lot of them went to churches that, were more applicable that, but as far as on a Saturday, how does the state elections board, how do they feel about it? What's the input there?
Point of orders, Mayor.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that we have that information, Alder Vanderleest. The one thing that I would note, I think our federal elections are, the date of those elections are set in federal law, so that could be an issue here. But the motion is to refer to protection and policy.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. That answers my question. If you're just going to refer it, thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Additional comments? Hearing none, there's a motion and a second. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes have it. The motion has been referred to the Protection and Policy Committee. Item 3 is in front of us. What do you wish it?
Motion
Move
to
to
approve.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Stoyer, seconded by Alder Dorf. Item was pulled by Alder Scannell.
Yes, sir. Given the recent actions by the elections commissions to mail in registration forms for absentee ballot, I don't know that this is really going to need to go anywhere. I would just make a motion to receive and place on file.
Second.
Made to receive and place on file, made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf. All in favor will signify by saying
Aye.
Aye.
opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The item has been received and placed on file. On to committee of the whole. We will take these separately. The first, item 1 is consideration with possible action on the proclamation extending emergency declaration and providing for temporary expansion of licensed premises descriptions within the city of Green Bay. Comments here.
Mayor?
Yes, Alder Johnson.
Thank you. I'm just looking for some clarification because I know that I had reached out to City Attorney Bunger inquiring about this a couple weeks ago. Admittedly, my inquiry was much more broad about a blanket change that would allow basically for licensed premises to extend their areas into parking lots. I'm just curious if the law department could perhaps provide some additional clarification on how this is different from that inquiry, simply because I was told that that was not possible. So I just want to get some additional clarity around that. I
think it's substantively pretty similar. This is something that's been done in the city of De Pere, city of Madison, communities, city of Oshkosh. But if Attorney Bungert is on the line, we will go to her. Otherwise, Attorney Chavez.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this is Attorney Chavez. So I'm not entirely sure what the discussion centered around with Attorney Bungert, but the reason we're able to do this is because of our emergency powers. It is tied exclusively to the fact that we are doing this as a declaration to enable social distancing, and so it gives us additional flexibility that we wouldn't have otherwise. So this is just an opportunity to create that social distancing. It's not something that meant, which is a completely different scenario that takes a completely different evaluation in place.
And I want to be clear that I didn't mean to suggest, and I hope it wasn't taken that way, that what Attorney Bungert had said to me was incorrect or misleading. Because clearly my question she interpreted it the way that I asked it. So where my real issue or maybe question comes to play is, do businesses actually have to take additional action for them to extend their premise and be able to serve alcohol, or how does that work?
Under this ordinance change? Correct. Yes, they will still have to submit an application. The way this one is set up, this allows staff to, essentially the city at this point is granting blanket approval for everybody to utilize. And then what would happen is staff is using that blanket approval to evaluate based on the factors that have already been put in. As long as they meet those factors, they automatically get the premises extension. So yes, there is an extra step, but it is literally just submitting the application and having staff review it to make sure there are no issues that arise.
Okay, terrific. Thank you for answering that. I fully support this. I mean, I firmly believe that our hospitality industry has 90 to 120 days to really salvage itself this year, particularly if there is a threat of a second wave. And we need to be able to provide them the capacity the safe capacity to be able to generate what they can. As many of you may know, in the hospitality industry, restaurants are based on, people being able to fill their rooms. And if we're limiting, and I know that there's not a requirement, but if we're suggesting or recommending, that they reduce their capacities to 50% or less, they have to go somewhere with those customers to be able to generate the kind of revenue that is necessary for them to remain open. So I fully support this move. This is a really important one if we want to protect our hospitality industry here in the city of Green Bay, and I encourage the rest of council to support this as well. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks to Alder Johnson for those comments and for broaching the conversation in the first place. Appreciate that. Alder Galvin.
Muted.
I'll get it. I actually had a constituent who reached out to me and had some photos of other communities that were allowing their restaurants to move into the parking lots and into the streets, actually closing off streets so that they could move their restaurant seating out into the streets. So they had that room so people could feel comfortable with the social distancing and the ability to still get out and be good patrons for these businesses. So I'm fully in favor of this.
Thank you for the comments. Additional thoughts?
Mayor, just one more if I could.
Go ahead, Alder.
Thank you. Just maybe a question for Director Grenier in light of the comment that Alder Galvin made. I'd submitted a request for the city to create an ordinance that would allow or permit the use of parklets in city streets. Director Grenier, do you know when that might come before committee?
We're hoping to have it in 2 weeks.
Perfect. Thank you. So Alder Galvin, just in response to your question, that would be a permanent ordinance change that council could consider that would allow the creation of parklets for roadways. So 2 weeks, we'll get to talk about that.
All right, very good.
Thank you, Alder. Any further comments on this item? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Steuer to approve item 1. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The item has been approved. On to item 2, consideration with possible action on resolution declaring a state of emergency and ordering a curfew for the city of Green Bay. I'm going to go to Chief Smith here because I believe he and be suggesting an amendment to the declaration. So with that, Chief Smith.
Good afternoon, council members. Andrew Smith here. Listen, right now as we speak, we have about 130 individuals running around the streets of Green Bay.
Can't understand a word.
That which is my, I can hear, I'm unmuted.
Mayor, can't understand a word.
I am aware of that, Alders.
Okay, can I try again?
Yeah, you bet.
Can you hear me now? Is it working?
No.
Yep, go ahead.
That better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's the deal. Right now, as we speak, we have 130 people wandering around the streets of Green Bay. We had a major situation on Sunday where shots were fired, a building was looted, and there was pandemonium, arson fires around the city. We played a cat and mouse game with these individuals until to throw things and break windows and loot. For me and for my team to say that we need a curfew through Sunday night. We have a major event scheduled on Sunday during the day. We need a curfew through Sunday night. I have the support of Dave Litton, and I won't speak, but they're fully supportive of this. Other cities have released their curfew. I just got a note from Dane County. They want 70 officers over there to help them maintain control in their city, and they lifted their curfew. I think there's no question that we need a curfew. We need that curfew to last until Monday morning.
I'd like to move to amend the proclamation then.
I would second that.
Resolution.
Motion made by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Stoyer. The amendment would extend that curfew 6 a.m. Monday morning. Is that correct, Alder?
Yes, to 6 a.m. Monday morning. Yep.
Mr. Mayor, this is Abby Ringel. Can I have the floor?
Motion to open the floor.
Ma'am, we do have a motion now to open the floor. Alder Stoyer has moved it. It's been seconded by Alder Stoyer. All in favor of that motion will signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The floor is open. State your name and address before speaking, please.
My name is Abigail Ringel, and my address is 2042 Memorial Drive. And I just have some questions on this curfew issue. First, I just kind of wanted some clarification. It seemed like from the people I've been speaking to, there isn't an understanding of exactly what is allowed and what is not allowed under this curfew. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, we can direct that question to Attorney Chavez.
I would actually refer to Chief Hughes, his department is the one who is handling everything. But at this point, essentially, the way the curfew works is as of 9 o'clock, the public areas, the public ways, so streets, sidewalks, public areas, those are all considered off limits essentially to the public. And so at those points, everything needs to be cleared. There is no requirement under the curfew that private premises be addressed. As long as people are on property, the police officers aren't taking any action against them because that is not a violation of the curfew. So for example, if people are in a restaurant that is a private, it's not public premise, and so the city has no reason to cite anybody for being in a private premise. The only time that it's really potentially an issue is if people are driving. But at this point, as long as people are headed to a destination, they're not just driving around, looking for things to do. As long as there's a destination place, and the way it is drafted, it says home, work, or location of convenience or place of convenience. That is entirely, it's free and open so that there is no requirement that anybody go specifically to their house or to their work.
So is it my understanding that then this curfew is strictly to prohibit protesters from protesting after 9 p.m.?
No, it is to prohibit anybody from being out in public streets after that time.
Okay, can you also of arrests that occurred this past Sunday night?
Chief Smith, maybe some context on enforcement.
Yeah, we had 5 individuals that were cited last night for violation of curfew. They were taken away, they were identified, they were cited, and they were released. On Sunday night, I think we had a total of 2 people that were physically arrested for different charges, and then several other people that were cited and given citations for those charges. But again, it was very difficult for us to cite people. I can tell you that at least 5 squad cars were damaged between us and the sheriff's department. I can tell you windows were broken throughout the downtown area. I personally put out 3 separate fires that had been lit in trash cans up in the Knight Street ramp and on the street in front of it, on the Pine Street ramp and the street in front of it. We had young groups of individuals that were terrorizing people at 1 and 2 in the morning who just wanted to drive down the street in peace. But they had people pounding on their cars. They had people screaming at them. And it was a cat and mouse game because we just didn't have enough people. Now, fortunately, right now, we have 125 National Guardsmen and women who are here protecting our city and our critical buildings. So that's going to allow our officers to be out there. But our officers need a tool to control the people that are out there just to cause trouble, hurt people, to steal things, and to break windows.
Mayor, point of order real quick. Alderman Johnson
accidentally.
I've notified.
Okay, sorry to interrupt, Chief. Alderman Johnson is out of the meeting. He's trying to get back in. Someone needs to let him in. So I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Okay. No, that's all right. I've notified Chief of Staff Jeffries and she'll be letting him in.
Thank you.
You bet.
Chief Smith, what is the typical arrest and detention rate on a normal Sunday night? And then my follow-up question to that would be, what type of arrests and number of arrests do you see on a typical Sunday night Packer home game?
On a typical Packer home game, we have at the Lambeau Field, we have typically several arrests and we have several people kicked out of the stadium. I can't give you a typical Sunday night because so many factors are involved in that. On a typical Sunday night in February, we may have no arrests. On a typical Sunday night in July, near the 4th of July weekend, we may have a large number of arrests. What I'm saying is the pandemonium that was going on with literally hundreds of people in the streets without any regard for the people that were trying to pass through, without any regard for the property rights of people who own buildings or who worked in buildings downtown, throwing rocks and bottles at our officers, at windows, at buildings for no reason other than because they were angry about something. That is lawlessness. That is criminal behavior. This curfew is a tool for us to help curb that criminal behavior that would be going on at night. Again, I don't think it's right that people light fires in parking ramps. And I think we owe it to the people that are trying to get to work or get home from work or get to the grocery store somewhere to keep these streets open and to allow people to live peacefully, especially during the evening hours when on Sunday night we saw pandemonium ensued until close to 3 o'clock.
May I have the floor?
No, we still have a resident who is speaking unless she's concluded her remarks.
No, I've concluded my remarks.
Okay, we'll move on to the next resident. Just state your name and address, please.
Dejanay Williams, 1721 Linwood Avenue, Apartment 5, Green Bay, Wisconsin, 54303.
Go ahead, ma'am.
In regards to what Abigail was saying about the arrest that's made in Lambeau Field, you said there were several arrests made and 5 made due to the protesting that was happening Sunday night. I was there front and center Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night through it all. So what I am trying to express to you all, why I feel that not be extended, is I feel that that's going to make people more and make them feel more oppressed when the whole purpose of them marching and chanting is against injustice and police brutality. You bringing out more National Guards with bigger guns for children that we all know they were kids that weren't with the movement, kids that were being kids, that's going to make them feel more oppressed and more angry. And I feel like day or night, if they're feeling angry and they want to be violent, they'll just do that in the daytime. I don't feel like the curfew is going to stop them from doing what they want to do. I feel like if anything, it's going to trigger them more. And that's me witnessing that on the media myself. So I feel like what we need to do, what I'm trying to do peacefully protesting and working with the mayor myself, and I've talked to the chief myself personally too, and you guys understood where I'm coming from, is I feel like we need to talk to the youth. If your child is vandalizing walls at your house, you don't pull out guns and tear gas and you redirect and you talk to them. I've been talking to them. The people that were fighting in the streets have reached out to me personally and understand now that we're not doing that that's embarrassing. We're not out here marching for them. They apologized. And now they want to be a part of the movement peacefully. And furthermore, a lot of those children out there, their parents should be keeping them in the house. Us adults that are out here protesting for the right movement, we shouldn't be, having a curfew. We know how to act. This curfew is going to be very, very bad for Sunday, especially since it's going to be a way larger group.
Thank you, ma'am, for those comments. As you said, you've had a conversation with Chief Smith. We had a conversation earlier today. I really appreciate what you are trying to do in terms of organizing events and making sure that they stay peaceable. But the things that, as I said earlier in this meeting, the things that I witnessed on Sunday night were incredibly disturbing. And we're very lucky that we didn't experience a loss of life here in the city of Green Bay as a result of a shooting at the Marathon gas station. Shots were fired into that gas station convenience store. I also witnessed or have witnessed since video of someone waving a gun around in the Adams Street parking lot. That was reported to Chief Smith and I as we were traveling around downtown surveying things. Have since seen footage. That was also very disturbing. There was a hit and run, which appeared to me to be intentional on Washington Street that evening as well. And so I am 110% in favor of people demonstrating peaceably, exercising their First Amendment rights. There is no reason, however, that they can't do that within the hours that are available to them within the confines of this curfew. Chief Smith, any further comments from you?
Mr. Mayor, I couldn't agree with you more. Not only have we supported, but we facilitated marches. We've worked to keep the streets clear so that marchers could travel freely in whatever place throughout the city that they wanted. Today, we provided water to marchers because it was 90 degrees out and they were in front of our police station. And everything we can to help facilitate that. But I agree with you. After 9, 10, 11 o'clock, my mom used to say, no good comes out with a kid being out after dark, after 10 o'clock. And I don't see a reason why people need to be able to wander the streets and do the things that you and I saw them do at 11, 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock at night. And we just don't have, it's putting everybody in danger, including them.
To follow up with that, I understand what you're saying, but to furthermore go along and say Friday and Saturday, we were all there till about 2 o'clock in the morning, and there were no violent crimes as far as shootings and fightings. And to follow up even more with the gun that you saw in the parking lot, I have that video too. I spoke out to the Press Gazette about that video. That was an adult who worked for the Green Bay Press Gazette waving that gun to protesters. So I don't want to misconstrue the facts, as I was there to witness it 7 feet away. And to follow up what you were saying about keeping the streets safe at 9, 10, 11 o'clock, if everything's peaceful like it was Friday and Saturday, how are you to assume that it won't be peaceful? There was one incident with children that weren't here for the right cause, weren't protesting with the movement. Protesting.
Just for clarification, wasn't there a big fight in front of the police station involving multiple people late at night on Saturday night before we had the curfew?
On Saturday night? I can't answer that because I didn't see it. I didn't see a fight Saturday night.
All right, thank you, ma'am, for your comments. Any other residents?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, Alder Scannell, go ahead.
Yes. I guess Dejanay was the last one. So do you have activities that you want to do after the curfew? Is there any reason why you wouldn't do those activities before?
There are a lot of people like myself that work 12-hour shifts. I work at a hospital. There are a lot of people that can't come at 11 o'clock in the morning or throughout the evening, but still want to show up and support for the cause. And that's what we're doing Friday and Saturday night. People came like at 8 o'clock at night. And more than that, it's really hot outside. People have medical conditions like asthma. My asthma gets bad in the weather. I have a weather condition, a weather-induced asthma. So a lot of people like myself do not come out until the heat comes down, which is later in the evening. It's not to troll the streets and to cause mayhem. I have live footage of everything from beginning to end that happened Friday and Saturday. And there's a lot of information from people that weren't there. The cars that you see were people protesting. They were supporting the movement. People standing on top of cars, I don't think it's smart. People get injured that way. And I'm grateful that you guys put up those barricades to block that type of traffic. But as far as jumping so-called on cars, they're on top of cars that belong to them and their friends that were part of the movement. And I think it's ridiculous for them to do that, which is why I say I'm glad that you guys have the barricades. So that's no longer an issue. But to come back to your question of why we should be there at night at 9 o'clock, it's because some people work. I have plenty of friends that say, oh, I work. I can't come at 2 o'clock. I can't come at 11. I get off at 6. You know, people want to walk. They want to be heard. They want to be seen. And that's what the whole movement is about. And I feel like this curfew, I see it from my eyes actually, is really making people angry. It's not helping at all for the community, for the people that are out here actually marching, not the people that are just looking on Facebook streams and Facebook lives. People that are actually in these streets marching and chanting, they don't like the curfew. And had they known about a city council, I'm pretty sure they would have been here attending and vouching for that.
Alder Scannell?
No, thank you. That does it for me. Thank you.
Alder LaFave, may I ask her a question?
Alder LaFave, go ahead.
Yes, I appreciate you coming forward and speaking. I want to know, is it possible if we extended it to 10? Would that give you more than enough time?
I mean, you guys make the decisions. You know, how you feel is how you feel. You're going to do what you do. I'm just saying what I'm reading, the hundreds of posts and comments that I'm receiving and messages about this curfew and about these big guns that people are seeing with the National Guard. It's agitating. The crowd was peaceful for the majority of the weekend. Extending to 10 o'clock an extra hour, I honestly can't say what it will do, if it'll be beneficial. I don't know. I just feel like people feel oppressed. And the whole Black Lives Matter movement is because of police brutality, injustice, and feeling oppressed. People feel like you're taking something away from them by telling them that they need to go inside. People don't feel safe because it might be rumors, it might not be. I haven't visualized with my own eyes, but people are saying people are being dragged out of cars for being outside past curfew. People can't walk down the street without getting detained because that makes the community upset. People are not happy with this curfew. I understand the vandalism that happened and the looting. I'm not behind that. I don't support that. I don't condone that. And since this happened on Sunday, people feel bad for what they've done. People have expressed their feelings about what they've done and come forward. The guy that was locked up, who shouldn't have been locked up, I don't know if you guys saw the video, but he was breaking up the protesters from targeting the police, and he was detained and tackled on the ground and beat up by the police. He actually got out of jail, and the first thing he did was people came forward to him who looted the store, and it's on live on Facebook. He gave all of that merchandise back to the playground store that was broken into. But you guys don't see that because you're not physically out here with us in the community. I am. I actually see these people on their media and see how they feel. And I'm trying to express that with you because I want to keep it peaceful. It was peaceful Friday and Saturday. Sunday, it became commotion because of a dumb kid that shot guns off in the air because he thought it was cool just because he had a gun. I don't agree with that, but that has nothing to do with what we're out here protesting and fighting for. That wasn't the movement. That we shouldn't all be penalized for that.
Thanks for your comments, ma'am. Any questions from alders?
Alder Gerlach.
Alder Gerlach, go ahead.
Thank you. Both Alder LaFave and Alder Scannell asked the first question I really wanted to ask, which was, is there some reason you can't get the work done by 9 o'clock? But Ms. Williams, I would like to ask you, you seem to be a leader. Am I interpreting that correctly, that you have some leadership skills and you're playing a kind of a leadership role in this?
Honestly, Friday, I said I was not going to protest because I felt personally like we're not going to be heard. Nothing's going to change. People asked me to come out, so I came out and I chanted and I said what I said and I talked to the youth because the youth are the future, and days, these are just my off days from work. I've never done anything like this before. And over this weekend, people have made me the leader. People have given me that role. I just speak how I feel. with the Black Lives Matter and with the police. Like I said, children, you're wrong for what you did. I'm not afraid to voice how I feel. People tell me, oh, you don't get it. You're supposed to be Black. You're supposed to think like this and that. No, right is right. Wrong is wrong. I tell everyone how I feel. And if that is leadership skills, then
yes,
I guess that's what they made me leader.
So you sound to me like a natural leader. And I just wonder, because you do definitely appear to be not only a natural leader, but a willing leader. I wonder if you would work with us. If we, as Alder LaFave has suggested, that perhaps the chief would be willing to start the curfew at 10, would you be willing to work with us to try to make that work out so that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish, which is very, very important. And we can also be assured that at 10 o'clock, everything will be closed down and safe. Would you be willing to try to do that? And it's not my place to be able to say that, but I just wonder.
I mean, I'm willing to do whatever. I mean, I'm working with the mayor and the chief because I want peace, but I don't feel like 10 o'clock would help because I know people that don't get off until 10 o'clock, that work at nursing homes as a CNA, that work 2 to 10. And some people want to come out and march for an hour or two. That's midnight right there. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying how I feel like that would go. I don't feel like it'll be helpful.
Okay, let me ask you this. If they work 2 to 10 and the curfew ends at what, 6 o'clock in the morning, is there any time before 2 o'clock? I mean, does this have to be done at night? Excuse me for my ignorance. I'm old.
No, you're fine. No.
Do you have to do this at night? Can it be done during the day?
And that brings me back to, I think it's Alder Scannell. He was talking about that. And as I mentioned in the morning, some people like myself, I personally do not come out in the morning. I do not come out until it's not as humid and it's not as hot because I will flare up and have an asthma attack. You have to think about stuff like that too. Some people in the morning don't wake up that early. There's a lot of young people out here marching and talking. Hey, up all night, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, don't wake up until the afternoon or the evening. There are people that work throughout the morning too. Community, and I'm 100% behind that. But as far as I don't think that's going to protect the community because, like I said, to the protests and they're mad, they can still jump on cars. They can still throw down signs and destroy stuff. They can still vandalize and write on property if that's what they're coming here to do. But the whole point of the movement is to come protest peacefully and be seen and be heard and make changes.
Thank you.
Would you close the floor?
Can I, Alder Dorff, I wanted to say something.
Go ahead, Alder Dorff.
All right, I'll try to make this quick. Dejanay, thank you for all your testimony. I grew up in Milwaukee, and as a freshman in high school, there were race riots in Milwaukee, and I witnessed some things that I swear I never wanted to see again. So with that being said, I'm all about working together, trying to do some good things here. I think, Police Chief Smith, he was on television, and the mayor as well, working and walking with the folks. Fond du Lac Sheriff, I think a lot of the community is really reaching out to you folks. I think what happened though is when the damage was done, that changed the whole dynamic. And whether you're to blame or not, if there's some other people that were involved, that just changes everything. And it's really difficult. We're all accountable. If there's damage that's done, we all need to be responsible and accountable. And I'm all for protest, First Amendment rights. I think what you're doing is fantastic. What happened in Minneapolis was horrible, and I can't stand watching it. And I'm a white person, and I can't stand it. So I think a lot the same way. So I guess, I'm basing my information in that on what the police chief and our fire chief and the mayor has said. And sadly, I wasn't at these meetings, but I would be more than happy to meet with you or others to do to make this a lot better area and a lot better place. Thank you.
I agree. And to answer your question about Milwaukee and the other places, I don't know which one of you said it, but I think it was the police that said the curfews have been lifted. if you guys are following it, it's because those curfews made it 10 times worse. Those people were still coming out at night, going way more chaotic than it was before the curfew. So that's why the curfews are being lifted. But you guys are gonna think what you want to think, make the decision that you want to make. I feel better that I've said my piece and told you how I felt about it to prevent whatever chaotic stuff may or may not happen based on these curfew.
Motion to close the floor.
Motion made by Alder Dorf to close the floor.
Second.
Seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is closed. We do have an amendment in front of us that's been offered by Alder Dorf, which would extend the curfew until Monday morning at 6 a.m. Was there a second for that amendment?
I seconded.
Stevens seconded. Additional conversation? Call Cam.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Your Honor. This is for Chief Smith. Well, first, let me make well, let's get the information out. Chief Smith, what does the curfew allow you to do? I mean, if someone's breaking the law, you don't need a curfew to arrest them. So what is the benefit of the curfew? Just to keep the streets clear? And how is that a benefit?
There are people that are conducting regular business, meaning going to work or going to to a place of entertainment or going out to a restaurant or bar, will not be affected by this. What will be affected is people that are wandering around the streets and honestly causing the troubles, the kind of things that the mayor and I witnessed on Sunday night. People that are wandering from place to place with no real purpose. Not really a protest at that point. It's people meandering around looking for trouble. And quite honestly, many of them breaking windows, many of them, as I said before, lighting fires, causing trouble. What happens at the curfew is at 9 o'clock, the people that aren't interested in trouble go home. They've protested since 11 o'clock when the protest is scheduled to start at Lake Park. My math has always been bad. That's 10 hours of protesting. And then they go home. And what you have left are people that are looking to cause trouble, quite frankly, many of them. And that's the problem that we had. This gives us, our officers, a tool to say, as we did last night, it's 9:10, there's a curfew at 9 o'clock, please go home. You're not allowed to be standing out on the street corner of Walnut and Washington. And guess what? Out of 30 people, 25 got in their cars and they went home. 5 people decided, no, we want to stay out here and see what happens. And those are the 5 people that got arrested. And those are the 5 people that were cited and later released. So it gives our officers a tool to clear people out of the kind of mayhem or the kind of pandemonium that the mayor and I witnessed on Sunday night.
Did you see much of an issue of raising it to 10 o'clock?
Quite honestly, I prefer it was 6 o'clock. I think 6 o'clock in the evening or sundown is fine. That was my original request, was 6 o'clock, and that's what many other cities across the country are doing, 6 o'clock. My strong recommendation would be 6 o'clock. The powers that be decided at 9, and I could certainly live with 9, but I see no reason for things to go from 9 till 10 o'clock or for an extra hour. I see no reason behind that.
Okay, thank you. Then the only comment I'd like to make is I have heard from other people that are not protesters, actually, and they don't like the curfew. They feel they're being punished. So there's that to consider as well. And I'd also like to know from the mayor, with the emergency powers, if this should, how should we say, backfire, that the curfew is seen as a provocation that people are going to rally to fight against, is worse, would you have the authority to, before the council could meet again, to repeal that curfew, to handle the situation as things arise?
I would go to Attorney Chavez on that.
Okay.
But it's an interesting question because the way that the emergency order is drafted, the way the emergency powers under the state statute work, is it's identifying the process by which you can respond. And so listing it, or basically saying having it expire prior to, is not something that was necessarily contemplated. In that instance, what I would recommend is amending the language to say will expire on Monday, what is it, the 8th, or until it is determined that the need for the curfew no longer exists. This way, if it is determined that it is not working or it is not fulfilling the need, then there is opportunity for it to be declared done.
Will Alder Dorf consider amending her motion accordingly?
I would, sure, I would consider amending that. So then the mayor would have the decision? Is that how that works?
If the situation arises where swift action is needed to address the situation, and that the best situation would be to repeal the curfew to restore order, to help restore order, then yeah. If that's what lucky that they repealed the curfew because it was a provocation that only caused more problems, then if we end up experiencing that, perhaps we should end the curfew sooner than Monday morning, 6 a.m. And
how do we know that that's the truth about Milwaukee? I mean, is that
Alder Dorf?
Well,
Alder Scannell has.
Yep, sorry. Yeah, it certainly wouldn't hurt to take that into consideration. I would trust the mayor to be able to assess and make the appropriate decision if it came to that. Whether it's true or not for Milwaukee or not, it could end up being true for us. It certainly is a possibility that there are people who are upset and may see this as a provocation that they would just want to instead of complying with. I should hope not. I know the mayor and the chief and certainly all of us are trying to work with people to make this a positive, constructive protest. But there's all kinds of people out there. There's only so much that control people have. I'd feel comfortable going forward with this if we had some flexibility in it. Thank you.
Other comments?
Well, yes, I'm being asked if I will amend my amendment. The only reason I would amend it is not for those reasons. I would amend it if we don't need the curfew anymore. If for some reason it's determined by the mayor and the emergency manager and the chief of police that they would recommend we didn't need it anymore, then without me amending it, would it have to stay in place until Monday morning if suddenly we determine we don't need it anymore? Can someone clarify that?
Can you go over that again, Attorney Chavez, for us?
So are you asking as far as what the recommended language or the process for it?
Well, what does it do if I amend the motion and say that it can be repealed by the mayor?
So it would just allow it to be the way I would word it would say shall automatically expire at I believe it's 6 a.m. on Monday, June 8th, or earlier if it is determined by the mayor and or emergency manager that the curfew, the conditions giving rise to the curfew and the emergency declaration no longer exist.
Yes, I would amend it to exactly what Attorney Chavez just said.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. You have further comments, Alder Dorf?
I don't.
Okay, Alder Galvin.
Your Honor, these crowd control situations can be very fluid. They can blow up on you in a second and sometimes never happen, even though it looks like you may have a heck of a storm coming. I'm very concerned. I don't want to take away any ability that the police department has to be able to respond and respond correctly to any situation that may arise. And that is my concern with lifting the curfew. prior to the date that we're looking at right now. I mean, things may be calm for 2-3 days. There may not even be any protesting. And then someone takes advantage of that, and we don't have the resources or the ability to react quickly. What we saw happen downtown was really, compared to many other places, very, very minor. I've never seen it here in my entire career. Even during the Vietnam War protests, I've never seen anything like this happen in our community. And like you said, Mayor, it was very startling to have it happen. And we put ourselves in a position that we're not able to respond and do what needs to be done to maintain control and protect our citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Further comments?
Yep, I do.
Go ahead, Alder. Alder Weary, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I just heard Alder. I didn't hear me. Thank you. I did want to go back to one of Chief Smith's comments just to get a clarification. Did you mention that there were 130 people right now walking around?
Yes, sir. That is correct. Right now, they are wandering around downtown, being followed by my officers or monitored. 130 people. Peaceful
Why are they
protest.
being followed? It's not even curfew yet.
Right. Being monitored to make sure that they're safe, to make sure that there's no drunk drivers plowing into them, and we have to make sure that we can close the streets for them to allow them to go from place to place. Right now, we have about 130 of them. So far peaceful, which is great. We support it, we encourage it, we facilitate it, but it needs to be done by 9 o'clock. So they got about another half hour.
Extend the curfew to Monday, Tuesday, they can go out there and protest it by 11 o'clock. Crazy. That doesn't help.
Point of order.
Jeffries, please mute.
Thank you. I mean, I'd be glad.
Did you just mute the only voice of color?
The floor is closed. This is a discussion among our city council. The floor was open, public testimony was offered and accepted and appreciated. This is a discussion among council at this point, and we have to have order in the meeting.
Okay, thank you, Thank you, Chief, and thank you, Mr. Mayor. I mean, if there's more pertinent information to listen to, I'd be more than happy to open the floor, but for now, I'd like to give my 2 cents worth, and then we can deal with that. I don't think anybody wants to mute anybody, right? That's not it at all, but we have to have it orderly. If the purpose of this, is to address gatherings in public spaces, the way it's is very singular. All persons shall cease vehicular and pedestrian travel, public ways, streets, sidewalks, and highways, and return to their homes, places of work, and other convenient place. It's written to address one person, any person. So we're basically decreeing that somebody's very presence in public. If you're in public, you're doing an unlawful act. You're going for a jog at 4 a.m. because you work weird hours. That says no matter how we're going to enforce it, that says you're doing something illegal. And so it could set us up for, enforcing it in different ways with different people. What if I want to run out at midnight to Quick Trip and get, some of their scrumptious donuts? Well, this says I can't. I don't work there. This just seems, I understand what's going on around the nation, but dang it, we are not Chicago, Philadelphia, Milwaukee. We're not there. And it's sad how easily we give up our freedom for some perceived safety. We're just handing it over like, I'll stay in my house till Sunday night between those hours, so I'm going to give it up. What the heck? I'm not going to vote to extend it. I think if things happen, and Chief, I know, I've heard you speak, you address it strongly when it happens. If issues happen, you address it swiftly and strongly. You don't let it happen like in any of these other cities. If I see that happening and we're allowing looting, I am going to be so pissed off.
Alder, you need some decorum.
So I can be pissed off. I'm not. So no kid gloves, arrest people. But man, this is a really, really overreaching, really tough thing to put on the citizens of Green Bay. I can't be in favor of it. It's got to be a better way. This is America. It's got to be a better way. Thanks.
Thanks, Alder. Further comments on the amendment? Alder Corpus Dax.
Alder LaFave.
Alder Corpus Dax.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not in favor of this curfew either. Ms. Williams made a good point that it's oppressing a people that have already been oppressed. People have the right to protest peacefully. Yes, there were people out there that had nothing to do with the protest and what was going on. They were people who were out there to just cause problems. They weren't out there. We shouldn't be punishing the protesters. And quite honestly, we shouldn't be punishing the entire city of Green Bay for the acts of a few people. And that's kind of what we're doing. We're punishing this city and saying, you have to stay in your home between these hours for something that a couple people did. City shouldn't be punished for it. The people who are peacefully protesting should not be punished for it.
Thanks, Alder. Alder LaFave.
Yes, this is a kind of a balancing act. How do we make sure that we don't have anarchy, different things happening in our city, yet allowing people to express themselves peacefully? I do get it with the young lady who spoke. I think she's very eloquent. She is a leader. She's impassioned. I feel for her, and I feel for all those who have felt oppressed, who felt that there's a class situation going on here, but we also have to have order. And also, I think this is kind of a generational thing. To me, I know that when there were curfews before, and it didn't bother me at all. I'm not roaming around the streets at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. I never did that. I mean, I don't do that. But this is something that we have to realize that there are people who are going to take advantage. They always do. They're going to do it. And it just helps the police kind of knowing that when some people are out there, are you doing it legitimately or are you going to cause problems? They can't be everywhere. That's why I'm conflicted, but I guess I will vote for this. But I understand both sides.
Thank
but
you, Alder.
We have to.
Alder Scannell.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Alder Scannell.
I don't know that I had my button pushed, but I guess I was just thinking that, you know, my training as an educator was it's bad practice to punish them for an individual's acts, and that's a common thing that happens, and it's generally not a good way to behave to manage a classroom. I too am a little conflicted here. I believe if we did not extend this, we have had peace for a while here now. But if we did get another round of violence, the mayor would have the authority to issue another curfew emergency. But of course, we want to try and preempt, be proactive to prevent that. I'm not sure if the curfew does or doesn't. So I'm a little conflicted here also. And I guess that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Alder Galvin.
Your Honor, this is for Chief Smith. Chief, staffing-wise, manpower-wise, your ability to respond to other calls for service in that, if we do not extend the curfew and yet people continue to gather at night in our community, how many extra officers do you think it will take to have to keep an eye on 300 people and be able to respond quickly if those 300 people decide they're going to act like the kids did the other night and fire off gunshots, break out windows, and loot a store?
Alders, right now I have about a dozen officers on overtime. That's costing us money, cash money out of our budget to monitor the protests that are going on and to protect the people that are here in Green Bay. That's a dozen officers. If I call in additional officers, I'm told that it's about a 2-hour delay before the county's mobile field force is able to mobilize and respond to protect us here in Green Bay. I'm tapped out with officers. I got officers canceling days off. I've got people working 12-hour shifts. And the only thing that I can do now would be to call in the sheriff's department and ask for their mobile field force who's trained in crowd control techniques. But again, that's a 2-hour delay. So we were rolling the dice if we don't have this curfew and have people that are in their office at by 9 p.m., sir.
So, Chief, we have nobody that's really crowd control at the department. That's correct?
That's correct. We have a SWAT team, but they are not crowd control trained. That's a county responsibility.
Okay. So 2 hours to wait. And how long would it take you to get another 20 or 30 or 40 in to call them in one at a time, respond to the station, to suit up and help out?
Honestly, sir, depending on the time, I don't think I could get 20 or 30 or 40. But if I did, it would certainly be an hour plus before I could get the first 15 to come in.
Okay. So we're going to roll the dice and say, let's not have a curfew. Let's trust people to behave themselves. Let's let them express their First Amendment rights to go out and protest, stay on the sidewalks, not block traffic or streets, because that takes more officers then to block the streets so they can walk down the middle of it and block traffic. And then if a few of them, well, I don't know, what was it, 150 to 300 the other night, decided not to behave, to fire off guns, break out windows, assault people, send them to the hospital, we got to wait 2 hours to hopefully get that under control. I'm not sure how much damage they can do in 2 hours, and I'm not sure it's worth it. You know, if it's predictable, it's preventable. And I'm really torn. I mean, I've seen a lot of comments from people who aren't part of the protest movement, but do talk about their rights, the constitutional rights. And we've listened to the two people here talk about, and they certainly have some valid reasons why these hours should be extended. But again, I'm concerned because when this was all taking place, all these people that weren't part of it stood back and there was no stopping them once they got going. If the employees at the Press-Gazette office hadn't lined up and prevented them from going in, they would have gone into the Press-Gazette offices. And as it was, one of them had to brandish a gun and another one was hit in the head with a rock and had to be hospitalized for a short time, just trying to do that. He didn't have the officers.
Sir, if that's a question for me, I would say we already rolled the dice on Sunday night and we saw what happened at 11:15 p.m.
And I guess that's why I'm going to be in favor of extending the curfew. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Alder Dorf.
Hi, thank you, Your Honor. My question or comment is regarding the scope of the curfew, because my understanding is different than several of the alders that have talked. My understanding is a person could go out and get donuts or could be going for a walk. Could I get clarification as to what the scope is? And maybe we can clear up some confusion.
Attorney Chavez?
Now's your chance, baby. At home.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute. So as far as people going for a walk, that would be prohibited because they would be spending their time exclusively on the public ways, essentially. As for them going to private property, they're going to get donuts. The time they're spending on the public ways is literally just transit. And so at that point, they are literally parking probably in a private parking lot and entering a private establishment. And so they're literally just transversing between a public or private location, which is their home or their business or wherever, to a private location, which is the place that they are headed to. But if they are out in any public areas, that is when the problem arises.
So people cannot go out jogging then? I mean, that would be very similar to walking, right? So, all right, so then I stand somewhat corrected, but you still could go get donuts, so thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Alder. We do have the amendment on the floor with a second. Is there further discussion on the amendment?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Alder Gerlach.
I don't know if this is the right time to try to do this, and this is, you know me, I always get things a little bit wrong. I wonder if I could have leave to direct my comments to the young ladies, even though the floor is closed and they can't respond. I do believe that that I have a message for them. Could I take a few minutes to talk directly to them?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Young ladies, Ms. Ringel and Ms. Williams, first of all, I want to thank you so much for being here. And I want to thank you for staying with us. And I know you don't get to talk, and I'm sorry, but I just want you to know a number of us alders are retired teachers, and we love young people, and we have faith in young people. And you seem pretty young to me. I wish I could see you. And I like you, and I'm so happy that you're part of this conversation. And I hope that this is a learning experience for you. It's a learning experience for all of us. And I hope you can appreciate, by listening to us, what a struggle this is for all of us, how difficult this is. And I think that the other retired educators, and I think it's Alder Scannell and Alder Dorf probably, I think we all want you to know that we are placing some faith in you to please now take this knowledge and this experience you've had and exercise whatever leadership you can. You know, we're scared. Bad things have happened. The fact that someone shot a gun in Green Bay scares the heck out of me. But I want to have faith that you can exert some leadership and that you can work with us to help keep things safe. I don't even know how to vote on this. I would tend to support the police chief and his suggestion that we need this curfew. But curfew or not, if we don't have the positive cooperation of the people who are justly protesting, it's going to turn out awful. So I just hope that you'll take this opportunity to really learn from this and really exert some leadership and prove that it can work out with the curfew, without a curfew, that the protesters can be responsible and be heard. And you'll try to do everything you can to make it work. Thank you so much for letting me say that, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, could you just rephrase the amendment that's on the floor right now? I'd like to hear what that amendment was.
Attorney Chavez, could you run through that for us again?
I will try to remember. So it would be the curfew would automatically expire at 6 a.m. on Monday, June 8th, unless it is determined earlier that the need for the conditions giving rise to the need for the declaration of emergency no longer exist.
Thank you.
Any further comments on the amendment?
Your Honor, just if anybody would like to speak again from the public, I would like to open the floor. If we know if there's a comment they'd like to make, I'd like to hear it.
Second.
Motion's been made to open the floor by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Weary. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The floor is open for residents to speak.
To speak. As you can tell, I lost my voice from protesting for the right reasons all weekend long. And I feel like this curfew, this is an example of why I didn't want to protest in the first place, because we're supposed to be seen and be heard. But But as these only two residents tried to speak out, we were muted and you guys spoke and we couldn't speak back. And to top it off, you guys are talking about extending the curfew. We're out here fighting for our rights and you guys are shutting it down. That's what it feels like for the community. Like I said, we feel up.
You know, as a white woman, all I can be is an ally. And I'm really
We lost her.
I'll message her. I just give her 2 seconds. I told her that she's frozen. I don't even know this girl. I just met her on Facebook because she saw that we were peacefully protesting. That's how big this has become. But I just texted her and told her Wi-Fi is issuing. She's fixing it. She's coming back on.
No problem.
Oh, she said her computer just died. It's fine. You guys can close the floor. She said, "Can you put me on speaker?" Yes. One moment. Can I call her and put her on speaker so she can talk?
Yeah, that's no problem.
Hi, you're on speaker.
Okay. I apologize. My computer decided to die because technology is great. But as I was saying, I'm really saddened by your decision tonight. The only thing we can do is hear our brothers and sisters of color, and you have done that tonight. And it's a shame, and I'm ashamed of the city of Green Bay. I'm hurt. Can't believe that we're sitting here discussing whether or not we should allow the people of Green Bay to exercise their First Amendment rights. I don't understand how you can sit there and see people protesting the overreach of the use of police and then bring in more police and think that's going to be a solution. How can you tell me I can't go for a walk after 9 p.m.? How can you tell me I can't take my dog out because I live in an apartment and I have to take her out to go to the bathroom? This is a clear violation of our constitutional rights. And I'm ashamed, and I hope you're ashamed of yourself too.
Are you done, Abby?
I'm done. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
Do you have any additional comments, Ms. Williams?
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, thank you both for
Motion to close the floor.
virtually tonight. I just want to make it clear that, we need to have order within our meetings. That was the only reason why the request was made to mute you. We have conversations among council members, and we need to make motions to open the floor. Otherwise, especially in a virtual environment, it's pretty difficult to hear what's being said and to run the meeting. So I apologize for how that was received, but that was the reason for doing that. So I will entertain a motion to close the floor now.
Motion to close the floor.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dax to close the floor. All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Floor is closed, and we are on the amendment. Alder Weary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Citizens of Green Bay, our deepest apologies. We sincerely regret curtailing your constitutional rights, but it truly, truly is in your best interest. So if you could use that as a PSA later on, thanks.
Any further comments on the amendment? All right.
Mr. Mayor, could you please repeat, have it clear?
So this would extend the curfew until Monday at 6 a.m. unless in my emergency powers deem it unnecessary to have it on the books any further. And just to be clear, it's not something that I would do unilaterally. This would have to be done with the advice and consent and support of Chief Smith and Chief Litton, acting, of course, as Chief of Police and Emergency Manager. So that is the amendment that is in front of us.
Thank you.
And we're going to use the
Mayor?
board on it. Alder LaFave. Alder LaFave, did you have a comment?
Yes, I'm just going to say that I'm going to very reluctantly vote yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Thanks,
it's
Alder.
yes, so reluctant not.
Alder Dorf,
Yes?
did you have a request to speak?
No, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't turn it off. Sorry. Nope.
With that, no more comments. We will use the board on the amendment.
Didn't come up. Did it come up?
Everyone has voted.
It's not coming up on mine.
How would you like to be recorded, Alder?
I'm going to say no.
Mayor,
Yes, clerk.
Kim just lost power.
Got it. Do you have?
Yeah, her whole house.
Oh, wonderful. Does anyone else have access to the board?
Mayor, this is my,
Director Ronick?
yes. Give me a couple minutes here, please.
Hello?
Can somebody give me the letter and number of the agenda item?
U2.
Mr. Mayor, while we're waiting, just a question, not about this though. Can we meet in person on the 29th? It's 4 weeks away.
Questions out of order, Alder.
Okay. Well, then it's a suggestion. How's that?
Very well.
That's actually my middle name out of order, but that's another story.
Well, I'm right here at the screen where it says add vote. Did everybody vote? Or should I start the vote?
Might be easier.
I voted.
It might be easier just to conduct the vote again.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to allow me to do that. I hit start voted.
Just popped up again.
It came up.
Okay, yeah, I see some people voting now. The thing about this is generally Kim was always a co-host. I am not a I won't be able to share the
Yeah,
the
I'm a
vote
host. I
to
think
the
I can
Zoom
share
meeting
my screen.
panel.
Excuse me, Mike. This is
I'm
Celestine.
willing to take a screenshot and email it to all districts, all alderpersons.
Can you
Could
hear
you
me?
read it though for the public?
I will read it, yes.
Wait,
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, can you hear me?
Right now, Alder Vanderleest and Alder Stoyer need to vote.
Well, like I said, my screen's not coming up.
And
I
you wanted
voted no. I voted no.
Is Alder Vanderleest lost power? I think he lives right next to Kim. I've been there.
Yeah, he's not on here anymore.
Yeah, he might have lost power too.
Yeah, we need to meet.
I could call him.
Please do, Alder.
Mr. Mayor, Alder Vanderleest's power is completely out. I got him on the phone. He's voting for the amendment.
Okay.
I don't know. He should be present to vote.
Well, can we put him on?
That would work. Yeah. No offense, Greg.
I have a tally of 8 yeses and 4 nos. Aldersdorf, Galvin, Stevens, Brunette, Vanderleest, Scannell, Lefebvre, and Gerlach were yes. Please Stoyer and Corpus Dax are no.
For handling that vote for us. Now we are on the item itself as amended.
Voicemail box of
So there's the vote being displayed. 8-4, motion succeeds. The amendment succeeds. As I said, we have the item in front of us now.
Move to approve. Do you need a motion?
Motion made by Alder Dorf to approve as amended,
Second.
seconded by Alder Galvin. Further comments? Seeing none, we'll use the board again. Hopefully, if Director Honick can display that for us.
Quite frankly, I don't know how that displayed the first time.
We'll try to do it accidentally again.
All right. Is that right?
Not seeing it as of yet.
Can people, is it popping up the vote?
No. No.
Now it is.
Alder Scannell, do you still have Alder Vanderleest on the line?
He went to voicemail. I'll try again.
Mr. Mayor, I've got Alder Vanderleest and he votes yes.
Okay, can you put him on speaker just so that
Oh, sure. Hang on. They want you on speaker. Oh, shoot. Hit the wrong button. I disconnected.
Oh my God.
Alder Stoyer, you have to vote?
I think he'll call me back.
No.
Dan.
I am waiting for Alder Vanderleest's vote. I don't believe.
Hang on. I'm
you have reached the voicemail box
I'm getting voicemail.
John. Hi, John?
Yeah, I must have lost you there, Randy. I'm in ordinance 1 there, general ordinance 16-20, ordinance grading section 3303.
Yep.
I'm a yay on that, yes.
Hang on a second. Did you get that, Mr. Mayor?
Well, just to clarify, yeah, but I think he was asking if we were on V1.
Oh, we're not? Huh? What are we on?
Clarify, we're still on the curfew as amended.
Curfew as amended. We're doing the curfew as amended. So.
Mine is a yes. In other words, I'll accept that on that curfew.
Thank you. You've got it. Yep. Okay. Hang on.
The other one did extend to the street, in other words, for restaurants and things.
We're not
on that as well.
right. We're not there yet, and I'll let you know because I've got you on speaker, and they'll pick it up from speaker, so they want to hear it directly from you, not me.
Just mute yourself, Alder. Scan.
I can give you a tally, and if Celestine can make me a co-host, we could share my screen.
Okay, well, why don't you just read through it for us and make sure there's a screenshot if you're unable to display.
Correct. Vote total was 8 yes, 4 no. Those voting yes are Aldersdorf, Galvin, Stevens, Brunette, Vander, and Gerlach. Those voting no are Johnson, Weary, Stoyer, and Corpus Dax.
Thank you, Director Ronick. That motion succeeds 8-4. We are on to ordinances first reading for adoption.
Motion to advance.
Motion has been made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Weary, was it?
Yes.
Sorry, it's to adopt.
First reading.
It's for adoption.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Oh, my screen was blocking that up. Okay, yeah, motion to adopt.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Weary to adopt. All in favor will, we had a pretty vibrant discussion. Unless there are additional comments, we'll move to the vote.
This does require a roll.
What?
Attempt to use the board again.
Aye on my aye.
Okay, I'll hang on. Mr. Mayor, can I give you Alder Van Leest here on speaker?
Yes.
Go ahead, go.
Aye. I have, yes.
Okay, they got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Hang on now.
Alders Weary, Vanderleest, and Stoyer.
What was that, Director Ronick?
Alders Vanderleest and Stoyer still must vote.
Alder Vanderleest is in favor.
Okay, they got it.
Aye.
Alder Stoyer.
Two ayes?
Yes.
That vote passed unanimously. Let me see if I can share my screen.
We trust you.
Okay.
Right.
Motion succeeds unanimously. On to resolutions.
You may, under suspension of the rules, adopt resolutions 1 through 16 together with one roll call vote.
Move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Made to suspend the rules by Alder Dorf, seconded by Alder Stevens. Let's take the items up with one roll call vote. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Are you in favor of taking all the motions at once? Okay. Aye.
Aye. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The rules are suspended. Entertain a motion to adopt resolutions 1 through 16.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Made by Alder Scannell, seconded by
We're
Alder
taking them all
Dorf.
together, all the resolutions. Now we're going to
1
adopt
through
them.
16.
Hang on.
Please use the board again.
Okay. This is Alder Vanderleest.
Aye. It'll be aye.
Did you get that, Mr. Mayor?
We did.
Okay, hang on now. I got to vote.
Would you like me sharing my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Those voted unanimously.
That vote is also 12-0. On to ordinance's first reading.
You may, under suspension of the rules, advance ordinances 1 through 4 to a second reading.
Motion to suspend.
Okay.
Alder Quistak, seconded by Alder Stevens, to suspend the rules, take up these items with one roll call vote. All in favor?
Mr. Mayor?
Mayor.
Yes.
Mayor. If we could, well, if I could be recorded as a no on number 1, but I do have an amendment on item 2. So maybe
All right.
2 could be handled separately.
Yes, we could.
And Mayor,
That will take up
okay, and Mayor,
items 1, 3, and 4 with one roll call vote. I'll entertain a motion on that.
Mayor,
Motion has
excuse me,
been made.
Mayor.
Alder
Hang on,
LaFave.
hang on.
Yes, I'll vote yes on 1 to 3, but number 4, it's a no.
Okay, let's just take them up individually.
Yeah.
Okay.
On item 1,
Motion to approve.
motion
Or
made
advance,
by,
I'm sorry.
motion to advance made by Alder
Second.
Scan, seconded by Alder Stoyer. Any discussion? All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Opposed, nay.
Nay, if I could please be recorded.
Yeah, we got you.
All right.
On to that motion is successful and it is advanced. Item 2,
Motion to advance.
Second.
made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Corpus Dex to advance. Alder Johnson had an amendment.
Yeah, we need to, because we referred the parking regulations from the traffic commission, we referred those back to committee. So this particular ordinance has those changes reflected in it. So I would move that we amend this to remove those items related to the Broadway street parking regulations. The rest of it is fine.
Second.
Just as a reminder, under our current ordinance, you're not allowed to act upon an ordinance at the meeting it's introduced unless the rules by 2/3 vote of members present. So you just have to suspend the rules before you do that.
Motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
Second.
Been made to suspend the rules by Johnson, seconded by Alder Scannell.
We're suspending the rules.
I got that.
Oh.
All in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Okay, they got it.
That succeeds. We're on the item as amended.
Motion to advance.
Second.
To advance, made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Stoyer. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. The item is advanced. On to item 3.
Motion to advance.
Second.
Motion to advance made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Stevens. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 It is advanced as well. On to item 4.
Motion to
Motion
advance.
to advance, second.
Motion made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf to advance. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed,
Aye.
nay.
Randy, just one quick question. I want to just
Opposition?
resolution on number 1. I want to be a nay on that one. I just found my paperwork here.
Okay.
In other words, on resolution 1, just have them jot me down as a nay.
Okay.
On that authorized use condition for 2475 Shady Oak.
Oh, yeah, okay, hang on.
You can just
Yep.
refer that to him. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Alder Vanderleest just realized that on the resolutions, he would like to be recorded as a nay on number
W1.
Number 1.
Number 1. Yep.
That will be noted. And as I said, Alder LaFave noted her opposition to X4 So that will be noted as well.
Okay, you're in. You got it.
Thank you.
On to referral of petitions and communications. Alder Dorf.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So this goes to improvement in services. Due to the recent notification to the city that the grant proposal to deal with the flooding on Beach Road will not be funded, I'm asking that an alternate source of funding be located to deal with the flooding this year. The county has set aside $500,000 in this budget year to help with this project. There's a high likelihood that this funding may not be available next year.
Thank you, Alder. Alder Steuer.
Thank you, Your Honor. This is to either finance or the mayor's office to create an ad hoc committee to look at ways and methods to adjust downward the 2020 City of Green Bay bonding schedule and the potential 2021 City of Green Bay budget, with participants from the City of Green Bay citizenry, city alders, and city staff, both administrative and union. This is truly a team effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Alder. Any others?
Mayor?
Go ahead, Alder LaFave.
Yes, I have three. To Improvement and Services Committee, a request by Freedom House to install a light on St. Anthony Drive by the bus stop. Second one is also Improvement and Services, request the Department of Public Works staff look into the storm sewer backup relating to East Shore Circle all the way down East Shore Drive to California Street. Number three, Protection and Policy, request staff gather a report of all businesses in the city who have Class A liquor, Class B beer, Class B liquor, Class B combination. This include businesses' names, addresses, and this can be we can wait until the July meeting to give staff time to put this together.
Alder. Any others? And entertain a motion to refer all petitions and communication.
Alder Weary. I think Alder Weary had one.
Alder Weary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to verify, if I could, with Clerk Teske that she did get mine by email.
Concerning poll workers?
Yep.
Yes, I did send that on to finance. Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Mayor, I will send mine. I didn't get to type these all up, just the first one, and I will send those to the clerk's office.
Others? All right, entertain a motion.
Motion to refer.
Second.
Motion made by Alder Scannell, seconded by Alder Dorf to refer all late petitions and communications
We'll return them now.
to authority. All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Have it. Adjournment.
Mr. Mayor? Mr. Mayor?
Oh, Mr. Mayor.
Motion on adjournment.
I have a question for you.
Entertain
I'd like to
a
meet in person, please.
I heard that earlier. We have adjournment.
I was out of order. Now I want to just say it again.
Yeah, you're
I think it would be wise. Yeah.
adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Let's meet in person. This is enough of this garbage. Thank you.
Alder Dorf.
Second.
To adjourn.
Seconded by Alder Scannell. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We're adjourned.